Buckle up, sports fanatics. This is the Sports Chasers Podcast, your HQ for in-depth sports talk. Join host Kevin L. Warren and crew as they dissect the hottest stories, ignite debates, and bring you closer to the action. From locker room whispers to expert takes, we cover it all. It's game time, so strap in and grab a drink. The Sports Chasers Podcast starts right now.
Hey, what's going on, everybody? What's happening, everybody? It's another edition of the Sports Chasers Podcast coming to you live and direct. And tonight, man, we got a special treat tonight for you guys, man. Hey, we got the East Coast Gridiron in the building tonight. Well, not in the building, but online with us tonight. But hey, one day in the building, man. But Hey, we're glad to have them, man. We're gonna be all heavy on the NFL again, the NFC to be exact, man. But before we introduce those gentlemen, let's meet our crew. Hey, D-Dubs, what's going on tonight? What's happening tonight, bro? How are you?
Hey, good, man. Another Thursday night, Sports Chasers Podcast. We're glad to be here. Glad to have some guests tonight. No, well, not even guests, man. Family, friends to the family, man.
Yeah, facts. That's right. Definitely appreciate you guys. Just to let y'all know, hey, we're live on YouTube, of course, Facebook, Instagram. Hey, it took me like 4 steps to go live on Instagram. I'm just saying. Twitter.
I need to fix it.
Oh shit! Here we go.
The draws, man. I got the draws.
The toxic one, the hockey dude. What's up, Dan? How are you tonight, bro? What's happening, man?
I'm doing good. Glad to see we got some new friends here. We're gonna talk some football. Not my specialty, even though I'm leading our poll. But hey, it is what it is.
Oh God, one week, and this guy already.
Yeah.
Already.
Who won last year? Not you.
That was a fluke.
Sound like the Raiders fans. They're already ready to call the season already.
Oh, James,
You see, right?
You gonna call me out? Okay.
The angry one. What's up tonight, bro? How are you, man?
It's what's going on, man? Another Sports Chasers Thursday. What's going on to our guests tonight? Friends of the family, call it all you want. Yo, man, let's get it, man. Toxic Dan, man. Settle down, man. Settle down.
Man, Dan came in hot, man. Because remember, Dan wasn't on the show last time, man. He just talked mad junk. You said you talked about my Steelers. I was like, well, Dan, did you even say
yo, all you, not our new friends, but all you on the show. Oh, yeah, they're going to be 500. Yeah, maybe after
who they play this week?
Denver. We're gonna whip their ass too.
Well, if you go back, if you use our good friend Twin Box, you will go back and see that I had your Steelers at about 9-8, 10-7, something like that, man. I mean,
okay. Yeah, second half of the season is gonna be rough, but
okay,
we'll see what happens in the first half.
This guy's delusional, man.
You'll be doing better than these birds that's on my hat. So,
D-Dub, I didn't give up on my team after the first week.
Hey, man.
You're already a Charger fan.
I've been consistent.
We're getting rid of, we're not gonna, even
I've been consistent.
Giants now.
Consistently consistent.
Let's meet our guests on the East Coast Gridiron. Hey, Dante, what's going on, bro? How are you tonight, man?
Hey, man, I can't complain. Glad to be back with you guys on the panel today. Talk some football. Y'all know that's what we do 24/7. It seems like I don't get no sleep. And especially, I don't get no sleep now. It's football season. I'm out watching all 22, writing notes. I had Jalen Hurts not meet my parlay. I'm holding up this sign last week. I'm like, just get a touch push, man. I need you to get an anytime touchdown, dog. What's happening?
I know that's right.
He put in a 2-week notice with the wife. I am not good till February.
Oh, she's just as bad. We got every single TV in the house, all the monitors with football. She's just as engaged as I am.
That's awesome.
She actually won our fantasy league 2 years in a row. So
shout out to the man.
Everybody said collusion. I said I wouldn't be picking Patrick Mahomes with the first pick, but she did 2 years straight. So that's how you know it wasn't me.
Shout out to all those that's watching, to the missus. Shout out to all those that's watching the YouTube, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, X. I think Dan has got us attached to Twitch. Shout out to those.
Yeah, I do.
So thank you, appreciate that. Here, excuse me 1 second. Yeah, as I hide that. Khalid, right? Did I say that right?
Yes, sir.
Yes. How are you, sir? How's it going? What's going on, man? Just found out he's an Eagle fan. He's with the East Coast Gridiron.
Oh yeah, fly, Eagles fly, dude. It's been going good. Now that football is in full swing, You know, there's really not many days where I'm bored in the evenings because I always got something I can throw on the TV and watch. Always got, film to go over or stats to mull over and go through. So I got a lot of stuff to keep me busy. So love this time of year.
And I'm not saying this because they are friends, man. But anything football, y'all need to check out. I will put them up against anybody, man, from college to the pros. They got it. They break down film. All of that stuff. They are the experts to it. So that's why I got them on tonight. Thank them, guys. Thank you guys for coming on. Part of their crew, I believe, Dante, you were telling me part of your crew is actually they're running the show tonight. So once you finish with us, I'm pretty sure they're gonna run back over there. Check out the East Coast Gridiron. Those that's watching with the Sports Chasers, man. Check them out. All things football. They are the peeps to check out when it comes to football, man. So
Appreciate you, man.
Yeah, you got it, man. Hey, we're just gonna go right into it, man. We're gonna go right to the NFC. We did the AFC last week. Predictions. I'm gonna pass it on to Khalid. Hey, the NFC East. Let's start with the Philadelphia Eagles. Y'all won last week in Brazil. What's your predictions and what's your prognosis for the 2024 season? What do you look like there for the Eagles?
I mean, for the Eagles, man, it was kind of an up and down opener. We saw some good things from the defense, but the offense definitely stuff to work through. And then going over to Dallas, right? You see the Cowboys and their defense looked dominant, straight up, just dominant, giving Deshaun Watson trouble all game. And then Washington, you could see some promise there with Jaden Daniels and the rest of that offense. And then your New York Giants, man, I really am sorry. It's going to be a long season, and I think it's really just going to be like a 2-horse race at the top between the Eagles and the Cowboys, especially if this Dallas defense is better than we thought it would be going into the season. Deron Bland is still out, so they're still missing him, and they still look great, right? The emergence of DeMarvion Overshown at linebacker, now that he's healthy, he's going to be really important for that defense, but it's going to be a Philly and Dallas race as Washington develops. Jaden Daniels gets some experience under his belt. They kind of figure out, okay, how do we need to bolster the roster moving forward? And for the Giants, it seems like a salvage what you can, see how Malik Neighbors looks, keep him happy as well, because, he's a number one receiver, right? He wants the ball. He wants things to go his way. So you got to appease him, right? You just drafted him and you can't have him already upset after 1 year. So regardless of how Daniel Jones plays, you got to keep him happy. Yeah.
One game.
Daniel Jones is throwing the ball. So good luck with that.
I don't know if you stick with them or move on, but the Giants are in some hot water this season. But if I had to pick a winner, I'd probably rock with Philly. But Dallas looks good. That defense. We'll find out more about how their offense looks against New Orleans. But
Gotcha. Dante, thoughts?
Yeah, I'm the same with Khalid. I think it's going to be a delta of like 4 games for the Eagles as far as their wins in the NFC East. I think they take it just by talent, on paper. And we've been saying that for years, right? I mean, the worst part of Friday was watching how much of a decline that Jalen Hurts is having. And we were just talking about this, like, I'm a quarterback guy, and I was the one that was, when he got drafted to the Eagles and everybody was freaking out, I was like, he's going to take Carson Wentz's job. 2 years later, he's the starter, one of the highest paid quarterbacks in the league, right? So, you just see winners on tape. And I think he has that winning mentality like the Tim Tebow. That's all about the team. Don't really care about what my stats look like, things like that. Mm-hmm. But for them is like what I was telling these guys. I don't know if he's so focused on like more like, so we're winning as a team. But I think he needs to be a little bit selfish and want to get his numbers up too. Because when his numbers are good, it helps your team win. And I don't think sometimes a lot of players can correlate that when they're winning so much. Like the Eagles have been winning a lot over the last couple of years too. So, but when everybody's good and everybody's putting up good stats, you're better. So I would say that's probably a takeaway for Jalen Hurts. As far as like the Cowboys, I mean, the Browns are a good defense, and they made them, look silly going down the field. They just couldn't punch it in. And I don't know if his age, I think the Cowboys offensive line has regressed, I mean, I think what they put up 3 or 4 sacks against Dak Prescott last week. So, and then having Ezekiel Elliott is probably not the answer long term too. When you're trying to get down, I know Dowdle is starting to get up there. They have what's his name from Kansas State still there as well that they drafted last year. So, but that front seven might be the best in the NFL after what we saw week 1. I mean, it just is what it is. I understand what the Browns are, but the Browns on the opposite end might have a top 5 offensive line unit. So the way that the Cowboys exposed them was a little shocking. And I have them finishing in second place. The third place is going to shock y'all, and I have them having the same record as the Cowboys and this was before the Daniel Jones debacle that happened. So my mind is totally probably changing on that. But I had you and the Cowboys as having 7-win seasons. I don't know if I necessarily think that right now. The Commanders, I just think I'm not the biggest Jaden Daniels fan. I literally think he's a poor man's Lamar Jackson. I think eventually, and I don't wish injuries on players. I hate when people talk about it, but I'll put it like this. The way he plays screams that I'm going to get injured in one of these games. You're a small dude. You're in the NFL, and you constantly are taking hits. And I understand that you can run for the 70, 80 yards, but the one thing about Lamar, he's gotten hurt 2 years in a row, only playing 7 or 8 games. So you already seen what you could be in the future. And it's just take that as a blueprint. Like the dude has a cannon for an arm. The fact that you're not even using, the guys on your team that are great receivers as well. The Terry McLaurins of the world. How are you not throwing down the field to that guy like you did in the preseason? If you're not doing those things, you're not going to, get success for your team. But I don't think Cliff Kingsbury having the same type of quarterback that he's trying to mold again, like a Kyler Murray, is the best answer for Jaden Daniels' career. So I don't know. I see it a couple different ways. I just don't. I see that the Commanders' defense has regressed a little bit. The best part of their team is their running backs and their receivers. I'm sorry. That's just how I see it. I just don't think that they, this division itself just screams like the Eagles are just going to come in and slap everybody. They're going to have their struggles. They might, at the end of the season, they might have a couple games that they lose, like 3 games in a row or something like that. But, they're going to make an impact in the playoffs. And my biggest question mark overall was how Saquon was going to do. To be completely honest, I'll always have Saquon sometimes out of my top 5 running backs from year to year, and it's because of injuries or it's because some games, and y'all know as Giants fans, sometimes he just doesn't show up.
Mm-hmm.
Or he gets utilized in the wrong way. Why are we throwing the ball to Saquon where he's a tank? Run him up the middle. Y'all saw what he did up the middle. Especially with a young offensive line, on the left side of the field, not necessarily on the right with Lane Johnson, but he was running it up the gut and getting 11 to 12 yards per carry. I mean, it was nasty. So if he runs like that the rest of the season, it might be better than 11 wins. But that's the one question mark I had, because they got a lot of new guys. Jahan Dotson's coming over from the Commanders, so he's going to have hell to pay with them when they play. They got 2 young cornerbacks that they just drafted. Zach Bond probably having the best linebacker performance of last week, having 14 tackles and 2 sacks. And then you talk about Jalen Carter and Jordan Davis and the boys, on that defensive line it's absolutely crazy. The 2 strong guys, and then having Vic Fangio as their defensive coordinator, who's, a lot of people have been basing their schemes off of what he's been doing for years. And now you got the grandfather of defense on your team as well, trying to, make another name for herself with the Eagles. It's a lot of firepower, man. And I think the other 3 teams, what you could say is like a label on what they are is, how are you going to utilize the weapons that are there to help you win? Because you got a lot of turmoil with quarterbacks, young quarterbacks, first-time offensive coordinators, former head coaches trying to get things together. Like, it's a lot of mix-up, and the Eagles are the only constant hiring a Kellen Moore and Vic Fangio. Like, they bring experience in when the other teams don't necessarily have that outside of a Brian Dable, in my opinion.
Yeah, Brian Dable. He's calling the offense, even though he said the whole preseason, we don't know. And I was like, dude, why don't you just say you're calling the offense? It's okay.
Yeah.
it's okay, man. You know what I'm saying? You called it for Josh Allen, right? So it's okay. I mean, even though it looked like it didn't make a difference on this past Sunday, I don't want this to be Giants heavy, man. But it is what it is when it comes to the Giants. And Khalid said something about Malik Neighbors. I hope this doesn't turn into another Saquon Barkley deal where, he doesn't get his touches. There's I won't even say controversy at quarterback. There's uncertainty at quarterback where his talent is being wasted. So, and I'm like you. I think the Eagles are head and shoulders above everybody else in the NFC East. I predict the Cowboys second. I got the Commanders third, and definitely after week one, the Giants. My Giants are pretty much a distant. I had them win the 7 games, man. I was like, man, I don't even know if we'll get 5, man. So we'll see. And
it's
also,
crazy that Kayvon and Brian Burns didn't do absolutely anything in their first performance either. And I hate that. It's like a Brian Burns guy through and through and a Kayvon guy. Like, I love both of those guys. And them together.
You got 2 studs, man. You got 2 studs. And they can't
otherworldly edge rushers, and they didn't show up at all. So to me, that's not good. That's not good at all.
Gotcha. E, you were shaking your head a little bit. What you got for us?
I'm in the greens with everything that's been said here, man. The Eagles, it's their division to lose. I mean, on paper, you look at the talent across the board, they look like world beaters, but they're the Eagles. I think they will go as far as Jalen Hurts will take them, and that defense. If Jalen Hurts was to put his stamp on this offense, this is by far the best team in the NFC, in my opinion. But that it is what it is. And the Cowboys, man, I'm not going to jump out the window like everybody else. Yes, the defense looks good. The defense always looks good when nobody's running on them. That's the one thing that I was surprised that Cleveland didn't try to do.
Yeah, I agree with you. Having not seeing Nick Chubb be there totally makes a difference too.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know. I mean, unfortunately, I don't know football like you guys, but I mean, you could have threw with that offensive line that they have in Cleveland. I was expecting a little bit more of a run-heavy attack, but it is what it is. But Dallas, yeah, I got them second, but that's just by default because the other 2 teams is just god awful. Washington is, I'm not a big Daniels guy either. We'll see. I mean, I don't think the guy's 200 pounds soaking wet, and you running around not sliding, and you trying to take off at every sign of danger or whatever.
Self-correcting problem. That's all right.
You got to show some kind of. I know it's just week 1, but during this season, you got to show some kind of prowess as to at least looking for your receivers, because it's not like you got a bunch of bums out there on the
absolutely not. No.
Yeah, so Washington got to figure it out, and the Giants. Yo, man, I'm not gonna sit here and poo-poo on the Giants, man, but they got a long way to go. And yeah, I'll just leave it to you guys, man. But again, I don't want to jump out the window after 1 week, but they look pathetic. They look defeated. How you looked at defeated, and it's just the first week. It's incredible. It falls on coaching. I'm sorry. And like I told these guys before, to see this Giants organization to where they are now from what they were, say, 10, 15 years ago, a Giants fan ought to be upset. That's all.
There's a lot of us.
Yeah,
I'm sure
they're jumping ship. They're going to the Chargers.
Yeah, absolutely. You won't be shaming me, Dan. Don't.
Yeah, but at the end of the day, you're still going to be the same place.
Don't worry about that, Dan. That's not.
I'm not worried.
He's a fan, okay.
I just know what's going to happen.
Yeah. But I don't foresee them running off and winning 10 games, 11 games, 12 games. They're not going to do it.
Nor the Chargers.
Miss me with what did you said? Who came on? You was telling me somebody came on and talking about the Giants that could turn it around.
That was not me. Trust
Kev.
me.
Who was that?
Kev over here sleeping.
Yeah, he must be on that.
Yeah,
heavy, yeah.
You don't give up, man. Give him a break.
You see, I'm in the sling, man. Relax.
Yeah, he on that perk heavy, huh? Anyway, but I don't see the Giants running off anything. So it's It's a loss. Yes, I don't see them, and they're going to bottom the basement. It's Philadelphia's world, and that's about it. There ain't really much to say about it.
Gotcha. Dan, anything on the NFC East before we move on to the NFC?
Well, I don't pay attention to your division, but at the end of the day, I think Philly's the team to beat. Even though they lost Kelsey, I think, the offensive line's still going to be okay. And now they got Saquon, they'll be able to run the ball a little bit better than they did. But, it really depends on what Dallas does. Like, if they can actually, because how many years has it been that they've been, right there on the cups of the playoffs and whatnot, and they always bow out if they get there in the first game. So, I mean, Commanders, Giants, not really going to do much. Sorry, Kevin, Daryl. I know you guys are upset, but it is what it is. Like, Daniel Jones isn't it, and he hasn't. And I don't understand why they gave him that money.
Yeah.
I mean, you're afraid of losing him? Okay.
I wouldn't have been. Please take it from me. It's like pocket lint. Just fold it.
Yeah.
Fold it inside out and just pray that it falls out at this point.
Yeah, it's like it is what it is, and he hasn't really shown anything to make you think he's that guy. But they gave him the money, and I don't get it.
The thing with that is exactly what you're saying. If he goes to another team and he looks great and he's healthier, I mean, let's just say you can't tell me right now that if Daniel Jones goes to the Browns with their offensive line and Nick Chubb coming back, that he wouldn't look better than a Deshaun Watson right now. Because I think he has a talent to look a little bit better than what he has been.
100%.
That's great, but you have to ship him to another team. So what's wrong with the line? What's wrong with your running backs? With the Giants, you got bigger problems than the quarterback. If you can move him somewhere else and he's A-okay.
But quarterback's always a scapegoat in the NFL.
Well, that goes back to what you.
I know
what you're saying, Dan, is coaching. It's definitely going back to coaching. There's something. When I looked at that team Sunday, I'm like, and I'm looking around the NFL and I'm looking at everybody else doing, moving the ball, able to do, and it's not like we ain't got talent in certain areas. So, I mean, we should be able to move the ball. We should be able to get more than 6 points. That's all. Yeah, 6 points. We should have been able to do something. And it's unfortunate, but
he has the best excuses. I mean, we talked about this before, and you said it backstage too. Daniel Jones has the best excuses in the world of why he got paid what he got paid and why he's still there. 2 major injuries, 3 different head coaches, not a consistent weapon at wide receiver. Saquon was like this with injuries too. So if you look at all of that stuff in a vacuum, it's like we've seen the great things happen from Daniel Jones. Again, to me on film, sometimes he can. I always say this, and I said this. Khalil used to play wide receiver, so he understands.
Okay.
As a quarterback, a backside throw outside the number comeback route is the hardest throw to make. Guess who could consistently do that? Daniel Jones, and make it look good.
Yeah,
but it's like you look at that, and it's like, okay. Joe Shane was right on the Hard Knocks show when he said we got to give him a chance. It's either we're going to have buyer's remorse, or can we live with the fact that we gave him enough chances to be great here, but at the cost of what? You guys being last in the division, which he's willing to fall on, which is commendable as a GM. I'm willing to fall on the sword for my guy, even though this wasn't the guy that I drafted, but it's going to be the expense that me, Dable, and him are going to be out here at the end of the season. Might as well pack your bags in week 15 because it's going to be a long road home, and y'all going to be having a hard time finding a job somewhere else.
Yeah, but I mean, Danny DeVito was able to move the offense.
Yeah, Tommy DeVito, sir.
No, that's Danny DeVito, the Penguin. He moved the offense.
He's actually a Jersey local dude there. Dante, Go ahead.
Real quick. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. But the Tommy DeVito thing, that argument always drives me crazy because it's harder to game plan to somebody that you've never seen on tape.
Never
before.
seen. Mm-hmm.
And then it's just like with the Raiders last year with Antonio Pierce, right? They had hope. They wanted the old coach out. Everybody was getting together in the locker room. They had that little bit of oomph to get past the next team,
right?
But Antonio Pierce, this is his first main season where it's his show. Now they're coming for you. That team's not going to be. Can he keep those guys as motivated throughout the offseason? That's how I kind of felt with Tommy DeVito coming in and went in a couple of games. Like, yeah, it gives you a little bit more hope. Oh, Danny's not back there. I might want to catch this pass or run my cuts a little harder, or game plan a little different because he doesn't have the skill set of a Daniel Jones. They called him Vanilla Vic for a reason because the dude could take off and get downfield. You know what I'm saying? Tommy DeVito's not like that. He's gonna sit in the pocket. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, but him tripping downfield, right? But that argument of like they won with Tommy DeVito. Well, it's a different culture when you bring that guy in. Like, I don't know if people really understand a different quarterback being under center. It's a coin flip game to game until you get film on the guy.
I was
and he looked terrible after.
Pickett, Trubisky, Mason. Yeah, I get that.
Yeah, that's one thing I've always told these fine Giants fans up here. I always play devil's advocate because I understand the quarterback position. At the end of the day, for Daniel Jones in his defense, the man has not had any consistency, whether it's from his line, whether it's from the receivers, whether it's from play calling, coaches, offensive coordinators. It's a revolving door. And that's what I meant when I said about the Giants organization, because once upon a time you didn't have all of that movement. It was very stable. But this is where we at now.
You know what you guys go get with the Giants, and I know we want to move on to the next division. I'm gonna give you one quick name that would fill in at quarterback right now, and that would give y'all hope. And it's not Ryan Tannehill.
Not Tannehill. Okay.
Dorian Thompson-Robinson from the Browns. He will give you guys more hope. He's a level-headed kid. He's a smart dude. And he's going to come in there and bring you something that's going to replicate everybody else in your division as far as offense. He can run as well as he can pass. Jalen Hurts, Jaden Daniels, Dak Prescott. It's all about preparation at the end of the day. I don't think that Daniel Jones is giving you that right now. And plus, it's a brand new face in the building too. And again, in New York, you kind of need a guy that is not the Daniel Jones pretty boy type. That's, unless you're Joe Namath, right? You don't need those type of guys there. But Dorian Thompson-Robinson, coming from the background he has and things like that, and his story getting to UCLA and all that, and playing behind these guys like Jameis Winston, and he's going to come in there and automatically fill in for a starting role, and he's going to feel like the guy. He's not going to get rattled by the media. He's just going to come in there and do his job. And now that I'm thinking about this more, man, I'm like, DTR might be the guy that the Giants need to go after. If it's week 8 and you guys are losing and you guys don't know who your quarterback is, Joe Shane, make the call and go get your guy.
Wow.
You heard it right here. Joe Shane. Hey, do I need to send you this link?
Yeah.
Go get your guy, man.
Go get it.
Because,
please,
man, this is. Let me ask you this, and we're going to move on. What was the worst interception of the day? Was it Daniel Jones or Will Levis?
That's a tough
one. Will Levis.
That's a great question. That's a great question, Kevin. Go ahead.
Oh wow!
I'll start with Dante. Go ahead, bro.
It was Will Levis. Just the way that it happened. It was the whole thing. The interception itself, the throw itself, to the interception, to him falling on the ground and doing this. At least you used to Daniel Jones throwing bad interceptions. Will Levis, it was like, you're the starter now. You're supposed to give us hope, and you do that at the end of the game. Like, all hope is gone. You never want to see your quarterback do this.
Yeah.
Now it was terrible.
That was awful.
And they was up. I thought Tennessee was going. I think I picked them that game. I said Tennessee should. Both teams are, I guess, up and coming, so to speak. But Tennessee was up in that game, and when he tore when he threw that, I was like, where was he?
If they would have punted it and pinned him deep, I think they would have given him enough time to have the defense just come up and clutch it for him. But I don't know what they were doing.
Yeah,
That was bad.
Yeah, that was real bad. Yeah, but we'll move on. Anybody else thoughts on that? Yeah, I gotta say Will Levis. That was absolutely the worst.
Yeah, he didn't even go after the guy. He just hit the ground and hit the, oh, I'm sorry.
Look, the best thing that can happen if you attempt that pass is what? You gain 1-2 yards, Obviously, we saw the worst case scenario, but what's the worst case scenario if you just don't throw it? You keep it. Worst case, you're sacked. For,
or throw it out of bounds
for a few yards, and you live.
He did the opposite of what he did in college.
Yeah,
he could have just ran the ball. This dude is a gutsy dude that used to run it all the time when he had pressure in his face. He decides just to throw some laundry up.
Yeah,
that was just nasty. Like a boneheaded play that cost his team.
Cost the team the game. Yeah, cost the team the game. Absolutely, Khalid. Absolutely. Mm-hmm. Let's move on to the NFC North. You got the Lions, the Packers, the Bears, and the Vikings. Hey, impressive win on Sunday night by the Lions. I like the Lions. They went to the NFC Championship game against the Niners last season. Was up, and the Niners came back and won that game, man. But I really like what Dan Campbell is doing with the Lions. They got a bunch of weapons on offense. The defense, they added two rookies, I believe. I can't think of the names, but some good studs on the defensive side. I'll pass it on to
Terran Arnold and Ennis Rakestraw. Yep.
There you go. See, I knew you would know, so I'll give it to you, Dante. Your thoughts on the NFC North?
Of course, yeah. This is going to be, if you don't have them in your Super Bowl, you have them at least in the NFC Championship across the board, and it's the Lions, man. What Dan Campbell's done there, when he said he was going to be biting kneecaps and slapping people in the face, that's what they've been doing, man. I've during my lifetime, I was born in '89. The only two guys that I've seen ever give the Lions hope, or four guys actually, I'll give them respect, was when Barry Sanders and Herman Moore were on the same team. That was during the 90s. Charlie Batch got there, and they were kind of all right. And then when it was Megatron and Matthew Stafford.
That's it.
What does that tell you right there? These dudes have not been playing defense ever during my lifetime. And that does not win you games. And the way that Dan Campbell used to play for the Lions, he used to be the linebacker down there for the Lions for years. And he's focusing on the defense. He knows what he's got on offense. When I'll tell you what, when the Matthew Stafford trade happened, I was surprised, but not the fact that they got rid of him, just the fact that he went to the Rams. And I have this on the count, and Khalid knows this. When I first started the podcast, I know it was my very first bold prediction. I said Matthew Stafford gonna win the Super Bowl, and he won that thing. I knew it. I knew immediately. But Jared Goff, I thought was gonna have a terrible career, and I love when players prove me wrong, man, because I just want to see good football at the end of the day, and especially for a team like the Lions that I've never seen be good. It's kind of like how I felt when the Chiefs won. An old AFL team coming in and winning the Super Bowl, like a legacy team. That's great for the sport. I want to also see this for the Lions, too, so I'm going to give them their flowers. Aiden Hutchinson is another dude that proved me wrong, and he's been balling out since he's got there. He's taking it a little personal. He's from the area. He's a Michigan guy through and through. So you're just starting to see like these pedigree kind of guys come in, and then Amon-Ra St. Brown, and they bring in a Jahmyr Gibbs that took a chance on him, which gives them a different dynamic. But I think really and truly, what I told these guys when I watched, I said, man, we need to start considering David Montgomery might be a top 10 running back in the league. That dude he's an absolute baller, man. They just got a complete team. I just think right now, what to me was keeping them from winning a Super Bowl is their youth. But what I broke down tape on Terran Arnold, and we were big fans of him coming out of Alabama. The way that he had some trouble against Cooper Kupp, but as soon as Puka Nacua went out, he started locking in. That dude is going to be an all-pro probably this year. I think he's going to learn from that. That was the worst thing for the NFL to do, was to match them up against the Rams. Is to give the Lions, young guys, that experience to get down to the rest of the season, because Dan Campbell knows what he's got right now.
Right.
I could gush all over the Lions. I got them at 13 wins, man. The Packers, I'm not the biggest fan of Jordan Love yet. And I'm not the biggest proponent of, like with Jalen Hurts, even though I'm a Jalen Hurts guy, you're paying a guy an all-time contract after 1 year of good production. You don't think that gets to them mentally? You don't think that, like, that's a lot to add on to one guy of saying we're going to reward you for one great year. What about, of course they're going to want their money, but like as a young guy, as a young player that's taking the reins over the Brett Favre that got them to the promised land, the Aaron Rodgers that got them to the promised land, the slew of great players that have come from there. And now you got to carry that torch and an all-time contract. That's a lot to ask, man. You got a bunch of young receivers. We love Jaden Reed. We love Dontavius Wicks and Tucker Kraft and Luke Musgrave. Got a chance to talk to those guys when I went down to do media at the Senior Bowl. Like, I love all those guys, right? Mm-hmm. But their defense, they had the same problem as the Lions have. Their defense is super young. I mean, Khalil love Edgerrin Cooper. That was my number 2. He goes to Texas A&M. He's seen him up close and personal. Yeah, that dude is an amazing linebacker on film. But I just don't think they have the juice to get there yet. And I think that Jordan Love is going to regress. And hate seeing him get injured, man. Even though I'm not a big fan of him, I hate to see guys get injured that have a lot of promise. If they don't sit him, and if they start him this week, they risk him getting hurt even more, and their season goes down with him because they do not trust Sean Clifford. They don't trust their quarterback room, and I don't think he's going to get them very far with those young guys. Because that, as a younger player, seeing a guy change that quickly, you think they're going to believe him or Sean Clifford when he steps in there? It's going to be hell to pay. And Matt LaFleur has been like this throughout his career too. How many times have we heard him being on the hot seat for just small things? So it's a lot of pressure. So I got them at 9 wins. 6 wins, I got the Bears. I'm not a big fan of Eberflus being their coach. But one thing I can say, when Montez Sweat came in there, he totally changed the trajectory of the way that defense was being played. I have no idea why the Commanders got rid of him. Chase Young, I get it. Bad groceries, whatever. And he's been on 2 teams since he's been with the Commanders. But a Montez Sweat, that's and I'm not saying he's otherworldly, but he's really an anchor for your defense. They draft really well. They got Caleb Williams, Rome Odunze. They bolstered up that offensive line. They bring DeAndre Swift in. Mm-hmm. I think they're at 6 wins, but Caleb is just going to get better and better and better. I don't care about the fingernail painting stuff, whatever. But he's got those guys locked in, man. He's a great leader. They trust him. I don't know if the way that you saw on the sideline this weekend, how he was getting those guys to go, hey, I know I only threw 90 yards, but we got to win this, man. He wants to play and he wants to win, regardless of what people say about him. I think next year we're going to be looking at the Packers in a different light when the Bears are starting to be good with a young team like the Lions. This is a lot of promise for them, but I really think, regardless of the way that they played you guys, the Vikings playing the Giants was not a good litmus test for them to start out their season.
Oh, of course not. No.
Because right now they think that they're hot shit right now.
Oh yeah.
The Sam Darnold
and they talking. They was like, man, we felt bad for Daniel. I say, really?
I think all of them are already talking, right? But to me, they are the worst team in the NFL, just on paper. I said Sam Darnold was going to be good, and they're going to regret drafting J.J. McCarthy because once he puts up the numbers that he's about to, and they're going to lose a lot, they're going to look at J.J. McCarthy like, do we get rid of Sam or what's happening here? So it's going this offseason for them is going to be hell to pay. I think they're at 5 wins, man. I don't see the rest of their season going that good. I think they're going to get ran on a lot with the David Montgomerys of the world, and Caleb Williams might have a field day on them. Like, even the Packers. I mean, did y'all see how Josh Jacobs was running? He was one of the best running backs last week. That boy was running hard, man. It's gonna be hell to pay for the Vikings. I just hope Ivan Pace is ready for it because he's been talking a lot of shit. So I got them at 5 wins, man. So that's kind of my outlook for them.
Gotcha. Khalid, what you got for us? NFC North.
So I'm spot on like with Dante when it comes to Chicago. I have them right at 6 wins, but I have them finishing last in the division. We saw kind of some struggles early on with Caleb Williams that, it's probably only up for that offense that got less than 150 yards total against an all right defense from Tennessee. He's got a lot of work on the wide receivers dropped a lot of footballs. I know Keenan Allen dropped a touchdown in the corner. Just like on a little quick out. And so they have a lot of things to clean up, but that defense, I mean, it won them the game. We just talked about that with the Will Levis interception. That defense is going to keep them in a lot of games. I just think there's going to be growing pains with a rookie quarterback and just all new weapons on offense with a new coach and all that. It's not going to be seamless, and it's not going to be great right out the gate. I'm a little bit higher on Minnesota, though. I have them winning 7 games, and I will say, though, like y'all were just saying, the Giants, week 1, that's not a great, measuring stick for how good a team is in week 1, especially with how bad the Giants looked. Yeah. But just like Dante, I'm a big Darnold believer. I know that Lamar and Josh Allen and Baker Mayfield have all ended up being much better than Allen up to this point, but Darnold was my favorite quarterback in that draft class, right? I was wrong about that, right? He's not the best, but I still think that there's hope for him, right? He has been in terrible situations from Carolina and with the New York Jets, and in the limited
It almost reminds you of Daniel Jones, right? It almost reminds you of that when he was with the Jets.
Absolutely. He's been put into terrible situations with high expectations, which is not a good recipe for success. That's how guys flame out of the league. And he's been able to bounce around. He's been to San Francisco, which is obviously has a much better support system there in terms of supporting cast and coaching. And so now he has, he still has some weapons. He has Justin Jefferson. He has a Jordan Addison. He has TJ Hawkinson when he's back from injury, right? He has an Aaron Jones who may not be the same running back he was, a few years ago, but he's by no means bad. But I think that defense, there's no question that it's a pretty weak unit. So they're going to struggle, right? Sam Darnold's no Kirk Cousins, but he has the potential to get better and continue to grow. So I have him winning seven games, but it's really, I don't really know how I feel about that, because I was in the preseason, right? I don't know how I feel about that after week 1 because I just don't really know much about this team, even after that game against New York. And then I have Detroit finishing atop my NFC North rankings with 13 wins, with Green Bay in second at 10. I like Green Bay's defense while they are young, but for me, the offense, I'm just, aside from Josh Jacobs, I'm not really intimidated by those wide receivers. That's how I felt with the Eagles, going into their week 1 matchup against them. But the wide receivers, I feel like, are a solid unit, but they don't have a stud, right? I like Jaden Reed, and he had a really good game against Philly, so maybe he ends up being that guy. But after Devontae Adams left, they haven't had a premier wide receiver, which I guess just limits how dangerous they can be, because you don't have someone who, you can count on every single week. They're going to get open no matter if they have a top corner who's traveling with them, following them around in man coverage, right? I know they can get open. They don't have that guy right now. And I feel like as a holistic unit, I feel like Detroit is just, they edge them out on offense where they can put up points in a lot of different ways every single week. And they have an alpha dog at wide receiver in Amon-Ra St. Brown. And Jameson Williams looks like he could, be an incredible 1B option next to Amon-Ra, who didn't have a great game this past week. No, he didn't. And then come on, Montgomery and Gibbs, out of the backfield. One of them is bound to, get some big runs and work in the running game. And then Gibbs, is going to be effective as a receiving threat. So Jared Goff has incredible weapons and a great offensive line. And that defense with Brian Branch healthy after he dealt with some injuries last year. We talked about how they drafted Ennis Rakestraw and Terry and Arnold. They're throwing assets at the defense. Aiden Hutchinson, I think this is year 3 for him now. They're throwing assets and investments in the defense, and they know that they have a top tier offense. I just see Detroit as a clear cut top team in this division. And especially with the injury to Jordan Love, I think it would take catastrophe for Detroit to not win this division at this point.
And Khalil, you bring up a great point with the lines that I didn't even like. If you had one of those investigative boards where you put the pins in with the yarn and start to connect the dots. Yeah. The Jared Goff and Hendon Hooker are 2 totally different quarterbacks that give you different looks. So you got diversity there. David Montgomery and Jahmyr Gibbs, you got diversity there because one of them is an old school running back and one of them is I can do it all. Jamison Williams, speedster. Amon-Ra St. Brown, dog. Like, he does everything great. Sam Laporta blocks as well as he catches. Laporta.
Yeah.
It's like they got diversity everywhere. And what it was the old saying, man, death by 1,000 cuts. It's hard to play them. It's hard to play defense against them dudes.
Gotcha. Gotcha. D, what you got for D-Dubs? What you got for us to the NFC?
Well, I was just talking about they was talking about tests, and Detroit got Tampa Bay this week at Detroit. We got Green Bay. Indianapolis is at Green Bay. San Francisco, talking about a test. San Francisco at Minnesota. Y'all talking, I talk. Got a real team coming in. What else?
Hey, D-Dubs, we have 4 players. So we ranked all the players in the NFL by position. They have 4 dudes that scored perfectly.
Really?
It was Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, what's his name at linebacker? Fred Warner. And Trent Williams. How you got 4 players that scored perfectly on somebody's chart? That's nasty work, man.
That's wow.
Oh, the DA definitely told me to tell you guys hello, and he definitely would love y'all for saying that. So
yeah, man. Salute to you, man. You got a hell of a team. I'd hate to play the 49ers.
Tua just got intercepted.
Well, Minnesota's going to see.
That wasn't Tua's fault. The receiver has bricks for hands.
So Josh
the receiver absolutely botched that.
They got the ball at the Dolphins 38-yard line. D-Dubs, I'm sorry, was you finished there yet? Let me go to some. I think you said something earlier about JJ McCarthy. Now I listened to y'all show when y'all was talking about him. I wanted to know what was all the hype. I think even when we did the draft special on when you guys came on here, I was like, why we acting like JJ McCarthy? Eric is shaking his head like he was that dude, coming out. Khalid's got his head back.
Bro,
he's a product of the program. I'm gonna shut up. That's all. I just had to say that. Go ahead. I want to hear what you guys got to say.
Go ahead.
JJ actually surprised me in his debut, and I mean, I was like, okay. I mean, I'm seeing some of that stuff that people were talking about. But then again, you played most of the third team defense the whole game, and people wanted to wave the flag like he was all that too. So it's like, I've never really seen him. I would have loved to see what he would have looked like against you guys week 1.
Yes.
And I know you got the team that you got, but like, it's a true number 1 defense. That depth chart was all number 1 guys that you felt were starters, right? So I would have loved to see that out of him. I think the hype with JJ was the fact that he does things well enough that they believe that they can mold him if they get a Sam Darnold in there that's able to teach him a little bit and tighten the screws. Because what a lot of people would think about what I'd said about my evaluations is that I hate the kid. The only reason I kept bringing him up in the offseason is because you had a dude at Bo Nix, 4,500 yards, 45 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. And then you have JJ McCarthy, 2,300 yards and barely 20 touchdowns like all year. And it's like, if you talk good about this dude that didn't really have that production and handed it off, he threw the ball 8 times against Penn State. But you don't want to give love to Bo Nix and say that he's a check down merchant. 700 yards were off of his check down. So what are we talking about? What happened to the other 30-something, 3,000 yards that came after that? It's because people don't really watch. They hear everybody else talk. And that's where those comparisons always came up for me. And I'm like, you can't have one without the other because it doesn't make sense. And y'all want to give JJ McCarthy the love because they're on a winning team. He's got Jim Harbaugh as his coach. He's younger than all the other quarterbacks. And then the one thing that he's got too is, he's got a pair of wheels on him, man. He can get out the pocket and make things look great. But most of the passes that he has is the Roman Wilsons of the world that don't get the love that he got, had to readjust to all the passes and things throughout the season that made JJ look good or made those passes look great. So I don't know. I'm very I stick to the film, and I watch it and I write my notes and I go back and I'll watch the game 3 times to kind of see this greatness. But I just didn't see it other than the fact that maybe a coach was drooling by the fact that oh, maybe we can make him into something. Oh, he's younger. He was in a Jim Harbaugh system. Oh, he interviews really well. He seems like a smart kid.
Oh, that old
I
he
hate that
interviews real well.
I can't stand that shit.
Or he's
He
good on a
interviews
whiteboard. Like,
Yeah.
if you can play, you can play, man. I
Facts.
don't know if he's got a lot of pressure on him because Sam Darnold just balled out. So he's
Percent.
probably sitting there like, man, shit. I hope Sam Darnold sucks the rest of the year because I'm never going to start if he's good.
Not here. Listen. Like I said, we were saying on here. I was like, well, dang, and that's and that was around that time when the Giants were saying we may take. I was like, nah, please don't do that. I don't want that. But as you can see, unfortunately,
Daboll was drooling over him, man. I believe that's who they wanted too. And Joe Shane was like, nope, we're gonna stick with our guy.
yeah, they got what they got. So, E, what you got for us, NFC North?
Well, we got Detroit, of course. They're the cream of the crop. I know they're a young team. They're up and coming. They're doing it the right way. They got a great offensive line. They got an up and coming defensive line. They got dogs everywhere that you really need dogs at, right?
Mm-hmm.
The number one question, of course, and I wish Primo was here or Mike Millie. Jared Stafford, aka Jared Goff. What are you going to get out of him? It's almost like people that have seen him in LA. Yeah, he's good, but when it comes down to it, for him to make crucial plays in the biggest and brightest stages, we'll see. I mean, he to me, he has a better team around him than what he had in LA.
It was the Todd Gurley show. People don't want to give that enough credit. Todd Gurley was the heart and soul of that offense.
I always felt that Jared Goff was always best at the play action pass. To have him stand there and just try to look around the field, I don't think that's his strong suit. But who am I? But I got Detroit.
Right.
I got Detroit front and center, and then I want to say Green Bay. I'm not impressed with the offense. I mean, here's the thing. This is 2024 NFL. If guys would actually commit to running the ball, I think a lot of predictions would go a different way. But it's 2024 NFL. If they was to run the ball, I would have them right behind Detroit, because anybody that can run the ball is going to give anybody else problems, in my opinion. But
and Josh Jacobs, like you said, he played really well. I think to me the first week.
Oh yeah, he ran hard, man. It was crazy.
So I like their defense, but I think their defense is a little bit better than Detroit's, in my opinion. But it is what it is. But I think their offense is going to hold them back from where they need to be. And then you got Minnesota. Minnesota and Chicago, to me, is neck and neck. It all depends on what you get out of the quarterback position. You got guys, especially in Chicago, seem like they got Maseratis everywhere. But if you ain't got the right engine to stir and all this other stuff, what do you really have? You got a bunch of junk. So it's early, man. Detroit. What I say? Detroit, Green Bay.
Mm-hmm.
Minnesota, and then Chicago. That's how I got mine.
Thank you, E. Hockey dude, what you got for us for the NFC North? And then we'll go to the NFC South.
Well, just looking at it, like we all said, Detroit is the cream of the crop. And then, what do you get out of Jordan Love? Chicago, they're running with the rookie quarterback. They got the defense, but, he's got to put points on the board too. We'll see. I still think, Detroit's going to come out of that division, and we'll see, how the others fall in line to try to get into that, wild card spot. But to me, it's Detroit.
Gotcha. Let's go to the NFC South, where you got. I got the Bucks. I'll call it like this. I got the Bucks, the Falcons, New Orleans, and the woeful Carolina Panthers. That's my my order here. Bucks played good on the other night. Other day against their game. Baker Mayfield, he was good. He's consistent, man. I think he's found a home in Tampa, man. And they got some good things on the offense as well as on the defense. Todd Bowles, I think he has some work to do on the defense side, though. Todd Bowles is being the coach. According to my notes, it looks like they finished 23rd. So then you had the Falcons. Already they're calling for Michael Penix Jr. I was like, well, dang, after one game, I was like, geesh, relax.
That's what the Steelers will do to you.
Whatever, bro.
Yeah, say what you want. All you bitches said, "Oh no, they're going to be terrible. They're not going to win any games." Yeah.
Well, that was Ryan and the DA, man. They're not even here.
I'm just saying, like, you can get mad as you want. If you have defense, you can win games. Look at Chicago last week.
And Will Levis doing what he did too. So.
When you pull Madonna and just go, like a prayer and just get on the ground and pray, shit's gonna happen.
You also got so like I said, the Falcons with Kirk Cousins. They're coming in second, I believe, there. And then you got the Saints, who played a JV team in the Carolina Panthers on this pass.
Oh, they're so bad.
Well, speaking of setup, their quarterback, what's their quarterback name? I so forgot. Bryce Young. The first attempt that he made, interception. And I think Khalid said it right. You quarterbacks, and he says it too on the show. When you come into a organization or you come into a situation where it's not conducive, it's not set up, you can waste some years or some of the stuff is not your fault, man.
You want me to give you my take on that, Kevin? Like,
go ahead. Go ahead.
This is how I feel about quarterbacks like Bryce Young or like guys that just get drafted in the first round. I believe that's going to happen with some of these guys. It's just unfortunately the situation that happens. Like, out of every quarterback, Michael Penix Jr. got drafted to the best situation. I'm gonna just be completely honest. Mm-hmm. He did, and if he's the one that has the most success, you have to think about the fact that he's on the best team out of all the quarterbacks that got drafted. And here's like my ultimate take on that is like teams will tank. Teams will not spend money that they obviously have to build everywhere else to get that number one quarterback in the draft or their guy. I'm honestly like, if the NFL is watching this, quarterbacks should only be drafted in the second round and later. You know why? Because taking your team with 2 to 3 first round picks or trading away all your great guys to move up in the draft is detrimental to your squad. There's no reason why I'm gonna call it like it is. There's no reason why Brian Burns should have went to the Giants. And they're doing that to account for everything else that they're deficient in, and obviously they don't have enough money to do what they need to do now because they went all out for Bryce Young. It's detrimental to a quarterback's career when he's going to a trash can of a team. And he's going to be the next Daniel Jones type of guy that we're talking about. Like, Bryce Young might get paid all this money because he's talented. And I like Bryce Young. Like, I like him more than Daniel Jones. I'm not going to get it twisted here. But, like, right. He's throwing the old-ass Adam Thielen at this point and a bunch of trash bags on his team. Like,
they gave up the best receiver in DJ Moore to Chicago.
And Ike Ekwonu, who they drafted, had the worst fall off that I've ever seen an offensive lineman have after his first year of being great. They're letting this dude get killed, and that's the first thing I listened to a couple of Panthers like podcasters, and I'm like, dude, y'all gonna let Bryce Young go somewhere else and be great. And I will stand on this hill by myself if nobody else agrees with this. If they think that CJ Stroud was going to solve their problems, it would have been almost the same exact result, if not better. Terrible. if Bryce Young was on
Absolutely.
the Texans, he would have been rookie of the year, and CJ Stroud would have been looking at this trash quarterback.
Yes.
He might have won 1 or 2 more games because of his size, because he's a prototypical size quarterback, but that's about it. They would have been in the same exact situations if it was to me. Like, I hate that the Panthers fans are so like they think that this dude is so trash, and I'm like, how do you not point the gun at everybody else on your team? JC Horn can't stay healthy. Like,
not only the team, the organization. I mean, they made bad moves after bad moves, and then you want to blame this guy.
David Tepper is a soccer guy. He thinks that one player is gonna, like in soccer, one player can turn your whole organization around.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you can't tell me Lionel Messi being on Argentina winning, as much as they have, is not because he wasn't there. If it had another, and Khalid's a soccer guy, he'll tell you, if Lionel Messi was a mediocre guy, Argentina would be one of the worst teams in the whole world. But that's how David Tepper thinks. He's a soccer owner too, so he thinks that one dude is going to turn around everything else. So let's spend the money. Let's do whatever we got to do to get the quarterback, because he is the goalie of our team. That's going to be able to stop it.
Because you need to go get you some football players, some NFL football players, not football, but football, NFL football players.
Who's that general manager?
Mines. Morgan. Dan Morgan.
Yeah,
he's new. So I don't know.
Can I get on this?
Yeah, go ahead.
You know how I love to rip the Panthers, but when Richardson was the owner, he wouldn't pay anybody except for his son-in-law. And then now we got Tepper that throws money around, but he won't keep anybody for more than a year. So it's like, how do you build a culture or a football team when, like, every year you're firing a coach? Like, the last 3 coaches he's fired are making an obscene amount of money. Like, I know Rule probably got that offset when he went to Nebraska.
Oh, Rule is banking.
But at the same time,
let me hold something.
Yeah, but at the same time, you got to think about this. Like, I'm an AFC North guy, and I've seen the Browns year after year after year, even the Bengals, drafting all these quarterbacks high, first round, whatever.
And they would have been great other places, but it's because
absolutely they fucking buried all these guys because their team were dog shit. And that's,
you can't tell me that Brady Quinn wouldn't have been great on a like at least a mediocre team out of Notre Dame.
Thank you.
If you had a good team or good offensive line in front of any of these guys, they would have been okay. They wouldn't have been great, but they would have been okay. But the Browns, year after year after year, put these guys in first year after drafting them. And like everybody knows, I'm a big proponent of you draft somebody, they don't play for 3 years. Let them learn the game, let them learn the speed, learn the offense, whatever. But if you throw them out there, like Achilles Smith, probably one of the better quarterbacks to come out of college. Ryan Leaf, same thing. And they threw him on bad teams, and they failed miserably, lost their confidence, and they were done. And that's kind of what they're doing with Bryce Young. That offensive line is so bad. Like, this guy hikes the ball. Like, you got to have him in shotgun, because if he's under center, he's tackled before he even fucking gets the ball. I mean, it's absolutely obscene how bad the Carolina Panthers are on the offensive line. And I know they brought guys in, but they're still so bad.
To go along with that point, I try to tell, like, college football is different. Like, you recruit because you got to win, and when you win, it gets the school money. It's different, right? For people not to think that, like, the business aspect of the NFL is not a thing, or we're not going to draft a guy that's marketable is not a thing, is absolutely asinine. Like, you have to think about that. But then also, here's the other thing that bad teams, and I know because I'm a Jaguars fan, we tanked 2 years straight for Trevor Lawrence, and now we're naming our stadium Trevor Bank Stadium for one game this week.
What has he done? He's terrible.
Are you serious?
Yeah, just for one game, we're going to put TR in the front of our lettering at our stadium, and it's going to be called Trevor Banks Stadium. It's crazy, but my point is that when you have guys like the Pittsburgh Steelers, I'm gonna use y'all because there's a great example. The Steelers, the let's see, the Baltimore Ravens are another one. Like, I hate to say it, y'all are rivals, but y'all are like two in the Packers. I'm gonna throw all three of them in there. Those are three of the best ran organizations year to year to year to year to year, and they never really have a down season, right? Because they build their team from the ground up, and they don't depend on if we got the number one quarterback in place, because they're automatically building that next guy up. Teams like the Panthers and the Jaguars and the Chiefs of the old days, they are trying to account for that. We need the publicity. And so we're going to throw those guys in there and get them killed because it's going to give our fans hope, and it's what's going to sell tickets.
To your point,
not necessarily for the betterment of the team. Like the Packers can wait, the Steelers can wait, the Baltimore Ravens can wait because they know their defense and everybody else can win them at least 8 games a year.
Well, to your point, Big Ben only played in his rookie season because, I can't even think of the dude's name. The starting quarterback got hurt.
Tommy Maddox.
Tommy Maddox got hurt.
Yeah.
Then, good old fragile, Charlie
Batch.
Batch came in, took one snap and broke his wrist. So they had to play Big Ben. That's the only reason why he played in his rookie year. Otherwise, he wouldn't have seen the field at all. And that's kind of like my thing is these guys coming out of college, you have to give them a grace period. And you have to let them get used to the game, the speed, practices. It's completely different in college. Like you said, college.
Big Ben came into a great team. That's what I'm saying. The support system
absolutely.
Excellent.
Absolutely. I mean, what did they do, though? They didn't have him passing the ball like he did in the last 5 years that he played. When he came in, it was hand it to Jerome and, we'll see you 5 yards down the field. And we'll do it again.
Later,
we'll do it again. We'll do it again. But that's what teams don't do now. Like they get these rookie quarterbacks, they don't have
patience because it doesn't pay the bills.
Yeah,
I'm gonna put that on a t-shirt. Patience doesn't pay bills.
They don't have the offensive line, that he had. They're suspect, and they don't run the ball at all. And they expect like Bryce Young. He when he got drafted, he was failed from the beginning because they were terrible up front. They didn't have a running game. And, you're expecting this guy to carry the franchise on his arm. And they really didn't have great receivers at the time either. So
teams are scared of any other player not named a quarterback to be the marketable guy.
Yeah, you got to have the foundation for the quarterback to succeed. If you don't, they're going to fail. And look at all the teams that start the quarterbacks right off the gate, except CJ Stroud. They had a good line, they have a good running game, and they had good receivers. So that's the outlier to all these other teams.
And they have a great coach that understands that we got to play together too.
Absolutely.
Yeah, like how many quarterbacks in recent memory can you name who were drafted and saw either immediate success or even a success at any point in their careers where they didn't have an elite offensive line, right? I think that CJ Stroud and Joe Burrow are probably the only two names who I can think of who have really found any level of success in this league in the last few years where they didn't have an elite offensive line right out the gate, right? And I think that's the problem with a lot of these quarterbacks who are getting drafted early, like Bryce Young, right? They're getting drafted early and they don't have great offensive lines because the team is so bad. That's why they have a top pick and they use it for a quarterback who's being put into a terrible situation. Looking at the top 100 players of 2024 list put up by the NFL, which was, again, voted by players. Let's look at the quarterbacks. Lamar Jackson is the first one. He was drafted. He sat behind Joe Flacco for a little bit and had a great offensive line. Patrick Mahomes sat for a year behind Alex Smith. Great offensive line, great offensive-minded head coach. Let's scroll down a little bit, right? And you get to Josh Allen. He had a really good offensive line while he still had trouble. He's grown a lot and thrived with a very good offensive line. Right? You move on. Jalen Hurts, he sat for a year behind one of the best offensive lines in the league over the last 5 years. Dak Prescott, mid-round pick behind Tony Romo, one of the best offensive lines in the league at that time, right? You keep on going. CJ Stroud, he was one of the few outliers. That offensive line has improved over time, but it was pretty shaky at first. Then you get to Brock Purdy, right? Last pick of the draft when he was drafted, elite offensive line with best offensive lineman alive at this current time, and Trent Williams.
He sat behind Jimmy Garoppolo.
Exactly. And then
who is a Super Bowl around Tom Brady. He might not have the arm, but he's got the mind of how to be succcesul.
Yeah, right. You look at all of these top quarterbacks, and the common denominator, aside from maybe one or two outliers, is that you have an elite offensive line, an elite supporting cast of weapons, or a top tier offensive head coach, or all of those things, right? So when you have quarterbacks, no matter how talented they are, if they're drafted to a terrible team with a terrible situation and without a good offensive line or running game, of course they're doomed for failure. Right? You're setting them up for failure with them getting drafted that early. And I don't like you. I know I'm an Eagles fan, so I kind of know like how they draft and how Howie Roseman likes to go about the draft. But you look at it, he loves spending early round picks on offensive and defensive linemen because he realizes the importance of building up the trenches first, because that's where you win and lose games. Right? This past year, in the third round, Jalix Hunt. Right in the first round in first round in 2023, Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. In the third round, Tyler Steen, who's offensive guard. 2022, Jordan Davis and Cam Jurgens, who are both now starters for us on the offensive and defensive lines. You go back to 2021, Landon Dickerson in the second, who's a starting guard. Right, 2020, we drafted Jalen Hurts because we already had a top 2 offensive line under contract for the next 2 years, every single one of them. So you keep on going back, and the year before that, Andre Dillard in the first. The year before that, Jordan Mailata in the 7th, who, granted, he panned out to be a lot better than most people thought. But you see this history.
An international guy that didn't even touch football before.
Yep, never before. All rugby.
So, Khalil, I got a question for you.
Yeah.
That being said, what we're talking about now, quarterbacks sitting behind, the starter and good offensive lines. What do you think Kenny Pickett could do in that offense if he had to start?
So he looked a little rough in the preseason, that which was concerning. But any quarterback with talent, as long as they have an offense tailored to them with a reliable running game and weapons around them and a good offensive line like Philly has, he can win games. He may not win you games, right? Like a Jalen Hurts can, but he will win games. And that's the kind of the difference between like a good or serviceable quarterback and maybe a great one is given an elite supporting cast, especially with a good offensive line. Certain quarterbacks, a lot of quarterbacks could win games, or like you could win games with them, but a select few can actually win you those games and elevate those players. So a guy like Kenny Pickett, right? He didn't quite pan out in Pittsburgh. There's still hope for him. He was a former first round pick, right?
Yeah.
Tua, what are you doing? Sorry.
Yeah, you're good. He's someone who, if he were asked to start for the Eagles, he could go out there and the Eagles would probably win some games. Maybe it may not be because of him, but he wouldn't be the reason they lose. Maybe
the reason I asked this is because, as a Steeler fan, I was high on Kenny.
Yeah.
I watched him at Pitt.
You were?
He came back for his 5th year and he played well. When he came,
I told my sister-in-law not to buy his jersey. I said, trust my quarterback evaluation. Don't buy that dude's jersey.
Well, hey, I get
you. She called me the other day. She's like, thank you.
but you know what I'm saying? Like, watching him play at Pitt and then get him drafted to Steelers, like
It's a cool story.
To be honest, I didn't think Trubisky should have ever started a game. He is absolutely terrible. But when he did get his chance, and he did move the offense, a little bit, once they got rid of the offensive coordinator, he played better. Then he got hurt, and he was done.
Yeah.
But that being said, I go back to my, original statement where if he had a chance to sit behind Jalen and be able to, practice, pick up the speed of the game and all that kind of stuff. And, the intelligence of the game, that he would be okay. I caught a lot of shit because I was like, I think he's a decent quarterback. Oh, yeah, he sucks. Vivian and my boys are always talking shit about it. But I think that Kenny is, could be a good quarterback in the league, giving the right opportunity. And where he's at now, I think that helps him going to Philly, where he can sit behind Jalen and learn the offense and learn the speed of the game and that kind of thing. But, it's like we said, if you're a quarterback coming out of college, the worst thing that can happen to you is be the starter from day one. Because if you are, your team is really bad.
Yeah, I know, Kev, you want to move on. Just one final statement, because I think that this is important. The CJ Stroud thing, we got to dig a little deeper on that when we think about it. I think what the Texans did is they gave him enough power to ask him, if we're choosing you as the number one pick, that means that you are in a position to make sure you know what you want on offense to make us successful too. Because one thing that the Texans asked him, and you can look this up, like they asked, who should we go out and get
and you said
that you're comfortable? And he said Tank Dell. Even if they had deficiencies at the offensive line, what he had felt was Tank Dell was one of the best downfield guys up the seams at wide receiver that was stretching the field 20 to 30 yards at a time, where people had to account for, okay, we can't just rush the quarterback,
Let's not gloss over the fact that Cleveland decided to throw the entire house at Texas to get, Deshaun Watson. So Stroud, Anderson, the defensive end, they got a lot of great picks from Cleveland in that trade. So that improved their team immensely right away. Like it's almost like going back to, what was it, the Herschel Walker trade or the Bo Jackson trade, where they gave up a shit pile of picks. And, the guys that they drafted actually hit. But I think that's a lot of what happened with Texas was, they shipped Deshaun to Cleveland and they got all those picks in return, and they actually hit on a lot of those picks.
Well, that's very true. That's a great point. And that's what great teams do, right?
Oh,
they capitalize on somebody that they think this is what Howie Roseman is good at. I'm a finesse you. I'm a sweet talker. I'm a call you, pick up the phone, and promise you more than what you probably are going to get. And we're going to capitalize on that.
Mm-hmm.
That's what he does. He manipulates the cap well enough. He goes in there and makes trades where we're like, dang, they gave the dude up for peanuts, man. And then they go out and they go draft some otherworldly guys with those picks. Like, the more picks you have, it's kind of like this. Like when we're doing content creation, right? The guy that might have more success is the guy that might put out 50 videos a day versus one and thinking that it's going to go viral, right?
Right.
It's the same thing with draft picks. I have 15 draft picks. I might have a better opportunity that half of these guys are going to be great, other than a dude that has just 7 every single year. So you increase your probability of finding a diamond in the rough every single year when you do what the Texans have done.
But
Absolutely.
I think kind of what Texas did is they took all of that draft capital and they won and they hit on the draft choices that they took that really improved that team super fast. And
they're cheaper contracts too. Rookies are cheaper.
Absolutely.
Contracts.
Rookie contracts,
especially if you get a superstar, you're like,
oh, absolutely.
I don't got to pay him for 3 years.
I mean, think about it. Will Anderson, at the defensive end, you got him for
They don't have
5
to pay him until
years.
his 5th year.
Yeah.
Mhm.
And they're probably in what, year 3 is contract. So they got 2 more years of that. And that's the thing, with a general manager, you offload Watson, which he played great for you when he was there, but shit's went south since then. And they were probably super happy they got rid of him. But at the same time, they brought in all this draft capital to make their team better, like way faster than it should happen. I mean, look at some of the teams that have, top draft picks every year and they're still ass.
Mhm.
They were able to take those picks and make them work for their team.
So let me get Eric in here, and then we must move on to the NFC. Eric always makes these. He always. What's your man in Washington? What was
Jason Campbell.
Go ahead, Eric.
That man had 4 coordinators in 2 years, and they still expected him to be great. Anyway, but to piggyback off of what you guys said too, right? And this is one thing we always talk about on the show. You have to have the good and great organizations. They draft and they go out into their off seasons and they get guys in with a purpose, right? They have a game plan. They have an outlook of what they want their team to look like, and they go and they draft accordingly. And that's what the Texans did. They struck gold on that. So hopefully,
They don't stray away from the game plan like the Raiders did by drafting Brock Bowers.
Oh, well, that's a whole nother story. But yeah,
Shot.
but
There's just some
getting
teams
back-
that
getting back.
can't get it right.
Mhm.
yeah.
Go
But
ahead.
getting back to the NFC South, I got Tampa Bay. I think people are finally looking at the true Baker Mayfield, who is finally healthy for the second straight year. He got Mike Evans looked like an absolute top 5 receiver last week, even though it is just 1 week. But he
Cleveland's
looked
still kicking their ass.
that combo looked great last week. So I got Tampa. I got who else is in that damn division?
Carolina,
New Orleans.
Saints.
No.
Atlanta.
I'm gonna go
Atlanta.
ahead and pull on myself. I don't know why. I must have been under the influence, and I don't even be under the influence like that. But I picked Carolina. Why I did that, I have no idea. I'm still mad
I
at
don't know
myself.
why.
Anyway,
We appreciate you,
Well,
though.
yeah,
That helped us out in the poll.
I don't know. But I got Tampa. I got New Orleans.
You got to go Atlanta.
No.
Carolina's so bad.
Let me take that back. Yeah, Tampa, Atlanta, New Orleans, and Carolina. I think, like what you guys said about Michael Penix, I think he's in a great position because it looks like Kirk Cousins probably is not going to be there that much longer. But it's always good to draft a quarterback and have him sit and learn behind a professional and see what he can do with all that talent that they have on offense. So I think that was an absolute good look. New Orleans, I mean, you beat up on Carolina week 1. You did what you were supposed to do. You probably surprised a lot of people by the amount of points you put up, but that's really not doing anything for New Orleans' outlook for the rest of the year, in my opinion. I mean, you got Carolina one more time, but that's about it.
My question, though, is like with Atlanta, why do you introduce a mobile quarterback system with Kirk Cousins and expect him to excel when he's not that guy? Like against the Steelers, they played the pistol like probably 70-80% of the game. That's not his thing. So why are you doing that? Now, if Penix is in there, that's different. He's more mobile. But like they set him up for failure from the get-go. And thank you, BetStamp, for the $12.75 that I won on my $5 bet.
Again, it goes back to what I just said. You have teams that have an outlook and they have a vision. You go out and get the pieces to
But they paid like what 180 million to get him there.
They probably did that also so nobody else would get him.
But that's I mean, he could have went anywhere. But like the fact that they paid all that money to have him to be their starting quarterback and then run an offense that he is nowhere near equipped to run.
Yeah, I don't have no answer for you, Dan. I think that.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I get it. It's just like
Kev.
What's my man name that came over from? I'm gonna take y'all back real quick. I know you guys probably know exactly who I'm talking about. Same scenario. You're the Washington, then what you was then. Yeah. You go get Albert Hainsworth. Was that his name?
Yep. Yeah.
You go get him from Tennessee.
I know where you're going with this.
They ran I believe a 4-3. I mean, was it a 4-3?
Yeah, they ran a 4-3 because he was a true nose tackle. Yeah.
Right. And then you bring him to Washington, and now you run a 3-4. And you expect him to excel, and you expect him to be happy. Why? Why?
I don't know, E.
But that's all I got. I'm good on the NFC South, man.
Let us a word from somebody that I think Dan said. BetStamp. Shout out to our affiliate BetStamp. Word for them. Hold on.
Sports Chaser fans, hey, I got some exciting news. I'm thrilled to announce our new partnership with BetStamps and sign-up experts, opening up an incredible opportunity for you to join some of our favorite sport books to get the best odds and new user offers. Head on over to our dedicated page, signupexpert.com/sports chasers to explore a selection of sports books tailored to you and to your region, each with unique offerings. So what you waiting for? Go ahead and get rich or bet trying. Peace.
Shout out to BetStamp. Khalid, real quick, did we get you the NFC South, your predictions, and then we'll move on to the NFC?
Yeah, I'll run through this real quick. I got Atlanta topping the division. I know that they looked pretty tough or rough around the edges and rusty that first week and really didn't show a lot of good signs either. It's not like, they didn't play well, but there's stuff there. They got a lot to work through on offense, especially, with the whole Kirk Cousins thing. You got to work on how you use him and making him comfortable and just getting him moving around the pocket, being able to actually run some play action and stuff like that. Then I have Tampa in second. Especially after this first week, those two teams could easily be flipped. But again, I made these before the season started. Tampa in second, New Orleans in third, and Carolina in dead last in the division. And I think that they're gonna get the first overall pick again. That's kind of where I stand on that.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Let's move on to the NFC West. You got the Niners, you got the Rams in this division, the Seahawks and Arizona. And I'm going just like that order there. You got the you got the Niners. They beat the Jets on Monday night. Brandon Ayuk, finally they came to terms, and McCaffrey didn't play, but it didn't matter. What was their backup guy?
That dude went nuts.
He definitely went crazy, man. So
Jordan Mason.
147 yards.
Yeah. So they didn't
who?
They didn't miss a beat. Nah, don't do that to McCaffrey.
I know.
So their quarterback, I know if DA was here, he always is. He's really hard on his team for whatever reason, man. Brock Purdy, and I say, hey, man, he just needs to, play within this game. He doesn't make mistakes. He doesn't throw the ball.
I was impressed by Purdy. I was super impressed. He was making some elite throws. And some of them weren't caught. Like the one in the back of the end zone from Brandon Ayuk that he usually catches. I was like, man, that was some Dan Marino stuff right there. I hate to say, but that's the flashback I got when I was a teenager. I was like, Dan Marino?
Hey, bro, don't let DA hear you say that. Don't let DA hear you say that, because this guy, he is so hard on this Niner team, and I'm like, yo, Brock Purdy is your guy, man. I don't know what do you had Garoppolo. Garoppolo, he cried about that.
He was crying about Garoppolo.
He don't need to cry about
now
Purdy,
you got Purdy. I'm like, yo, dog, Yo, Purdy, I know he's Mr. Irrelevant, but Purdy's your man.
Yeah,
me and Kalia tell you, we did a tier list of quarterbacks. We stayed on Purdy for a little bit because it was like, do you even see what you saw in the last couple of years and say that he's worse than that? Or
I mean, think about it this way: he's
know.
like Tom Brady. He wasn't a top pick, but the dude can throw a football.
He could throw. He's been tested. He's been ballot tested. So I mean,
you got to think that injury he had last year. He wasn't really supposed to throw a football ever again.
Correct.
And now he's rested now, and that arm looks fine. I mean, I don't know, man. I think that I literally have Brock Purdy winning the MVP this year, and he showed me every single bit of that. Last week I was like, "Yep, I think we hit that one on the head."
Brock Purdy. I mean, I'm not mad at it. I mean, I can understand, but you thinking that it's a Cinderella. The glass slipper is going to turn into a pumpkin, but this guy's he's still doing it. He's doing.
Well, he went on that
like
8-game winning streak after filling in for Garoppolo, and I was like,
correct.
How can y'all deny this dude is not? He would have beat the Eagles if he was healthy. I truly believe that.
Absolutely. That year, was the year before? Yeah, year before last.
He would have been in back-to-back Super Bowls.
Absolutely. It's just that team was so beat up. I mean, they were so beat up. I mean, you had nothing. They had nobody. So yeah, I totally agree.
Dante, was you available that day? Because you could have went out there and helped them out, man. You know what I'm saying? Because they was beat up, bro.
they went through every quarterback they could.
McCaffrey
throwing passes at one point. I was like, damn, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I'll give it to Dante. Who you got here in the NFC West?
I'm gonna say one thing, man. I've been saying this for years. And people want to disagree with me every single year. How can you say the NFC West is not the best division in football? They give us the best football year after year after year. Think about the last 10 years. The 49ers have been in multiple NFC championships and multiple Super Bowls. The Seahawks went to 2 Super Bowls, and they were in multiple deep inside the playoffs. The Cardinals started off their season. It was a 10-win season, and then they dumped from there, but still they were legit. The Rams won a Super Bowl. They've been to 2 Super Bowls in the past. You can't say in the last 10 or 15 years that this is not the best division that delivers year after year after year with somebody different being the team outside of the Cardinals. That's crazy, man, to think about. 49ers, Seahawks, and the Rams have all been to a Super Bowl. I would say that's an elite division, man.
Well, it may be elite, but maybe the teams around them are weak when they get there, because you can't tell me otherwise that the hardest division in football is not the AFC North.
I disagree.
The Browns were the worst thing smoking, bro.
Okay, so you could throw the Browns under the rug.
No.
But think about it. You got the Deshaun Watson with the $250 million contract. You got Joe Burrow. You got
Joe
Lamar
Burrow
Jackson
has been hurt, and they've looked like crap when he's not been there.
Yeah, exactly. But the hardest division in football by far is the AFC North. It's not because my team's there,
100%.
But it is the most brutal division in football.
I think
because you could put any team in there for Cleveland, and they're going to get their ass worked.
I think they're talking about 2 different things. Go ahead.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying the toughest.
Yeah, but he's talking
I would agree with that to an extent. That's the black and blue division. It kind of reminds me of how the NFC East used to be. Anybody that came out of there was basically Super Bowl ready because they were so battle tested. If you won 8 games, you was basically going to win that division. I think that just from a winning standpoint,
the winning perspective, yeah, because you could say that about like Bristol said, the AFC West, yeah. The Chiefs have won the most.
Well, they might have won, but it's been very Chiefs heavy.
It's
that's what I'm saying.
Holistically, though, like the NFC West probably is one of the most successful holistically, and all 4 teams contribute to that. When you look at the AFC West, right, it's really just carried by the Chiefs and like that 1 or 2 years with Denver when they had Peyton Manning. And when you look at the NFC West, I mean, Dante listed out like everything, the the Niners in the recent years, right? And even a while back when Harbaugh was there, you have the Rams. They just won one and went to another a few years before. Seattle's been to a few. Arizona's been consistently.
Nobody cares about regular season
generally.
records. It's how far you've gotten the playoffs or gotten
Exactly.
to the Super Bowl.
And
Yeah.
but I get that. But as far as the toughest,
well, I mean,
that's
I
up
would
for
agree with
debate.
you if there were 3 legit teams, but the 2 teams that everybody has to go through in your division is the Ravens and the Steelers. I mean, historically, because I honestly can't say the Bengals have ever been good in my lifetime outside of Joe Burrow going to the Super Bowl that one year. And when he's gone, it's not the same. And Browns have been a part of
let's back it up a little bit more. When what's my man? He got hurt that one year that Cincinnati had a phenomenal year. Quarterback Palmer got hurt.
Carson Palmer
got hurt.
But that's the thing with the Bengals, though. They only pay a couple people, and that's it. They don't pay.
When you look at the NFC West, and I totally agree with you. They has been equally spread it out. Everybody has contributed to getting somewhere NFC championship, if not winning the Super Bowl. So
I mean, the Cardinals have contributed by having some upsets too. Like they were a hell of a team to play when Kyler was healthy. People were saying that he was an MVP caliber type quarterback, and those other 3 teams had to go against him twice. You can't tell me that iron doesn't sharpen iron right there.
Arizona, even that 2015 year when they went against Carolina and lost.
Thank you. I was about to say that. Yeah,
that year was a good year for
that year.
Yeah, that was a good year for Arizona that year.
The last 15 years have been ruled by the NFC.
Yeah,
variety and success. Like
I agree with you. I must agree.
Yeah.
So I just had to throw that in there because some people would disagree, but like I just think the variety of success that's been there has been incredible.
From all 4 teams.
From all 4
had
teams.
their chance.
I have the 49ers first. There's no question. I already said it before. 4 of the best players in the league that we ranked that had perfect scores are on that team. So you automatically got to give them a bid. Brock Purdy has been incredible. They have the best coach in the NFC West. I mean, Kyle Shanahan is as much of his dad as his dad is, as much as a extension of what he raised him to be as well. So but he's got his own flavor, which has been working. You never see him get compared to his dad because he's got his own style, the way he likes to do things, which is commendable. I mean, that's great to separate yourself from your dad. That's awesome. A lot of people get compared to their fathers from their previous success, and he's in a league of his own, which is great. And his quarterback and his coaching tree has been good too. A lot of guys have spawned off of that. That adds on to that. So, I had the 49ers at 14 wins. Only taking 3 losses on the year. The Rams, though, my quarterback list had a guy at number 2, and his name was Matt Stafford. And a lot of people are like, what? There is no Rams team that has success last year without Matthew Stafford. As much as Puka Nacua went off, the balls that were being thrown to him had to be thrown by somebody to learn from a leader like him. And how come it's so funny when we think about it, right? Matthew Stafford never gets the credit. It's always his receivers. It's always Cooper Kupp. It's always Puka Nacua. It's always Calvin Johnson. But look who's throwing on the rock this whole time. Like, the dude, as much as Tom Brady used to make his no-name receivers, Matt Stafford has that whatever Madden slider for wide receiver influence, if there was one, as any other quarterback of all time, man. The dude is legit. And I still think you saw it. You saw it this past weekend, too. Like, there was much in that game because Matt Stafford started to lock in towards the end of the game. Couple drops and stuff. And
hey, Dante, we got a guy on Mike Millie. He will constantly shit on Matthew Stafford and Jared Goff. Both of these guys. And you're absolutely right. You have to. They catching the ball. Somebody's throwing them the ball. That's 100% correct.
He's a great leader, man.
Say what you want to say. He got you there. He won a Super Bowl. So, hey.
How come they won it? It's funny that they say that, but literally, Matthew Stafford went to the Rams without a Todd Gurley and won a Super Bowl. Imagine if he was there, switched with Jared Goff. They would have won 3 in a row when they were hot with Todd Gurley. I truly believe that. But Matthew Stafford, I have them at 12 wins. I have this being the most competitive division again. I have them at 12 wins, making the playoffs. And I have another 10-win team, and it's the Seahawks. I really think I know they got a first-year head coach. Pete Carroll's not there anymore. Geno Smith is their quarterback. But one of the most disrespected quarterbacks that's going to be the next Baker Mayfield, not saying that because he looks like him, is Sam Howell. Sam Howell got absolutely shafted in Washington to me.
Yeah.
Well,
And you don't think that's weighing on his mind right now? Oh, I'm just
Hey, they
waiting
got
on
rid of
Geno.
him quickly. They got rid of his ass. I don't know why, but yeah, you're right.
Well, it's
He
like the
used to throw it to
Panthers,
Terry
they did-
McLaurin. Terry McLaurin misses him right now. He used to throw it deep and let him go get it. Now you pair him up with 3 or 4 Terry McLaurins on the same team with Kenneth Walker and Zach Charbonnet on this, and an offensive line that's getting better, and their defense was tackling their asses off last week. Like this team is ready to go, and they're just missing the quarterback. And you got the guy that's got a chip on his shoulder. He's just waiting for Geno Smith to mess up. I think it was the smartest move by any team that outside of the Jaguars going to get Mac Jones. That's, and I have my thoughts on that, but Sam Howell being their backup and a young guy that got shafted, it's going to be hell to pay. Like, he's going to be good for a long time out there. And you're going to get some great quarterbacks in your division that you get to learn from every single week. He gets the best seat in the house on the sideline watching other teams tear up his team on defense with great quarterbacks. You don't think that's weighing on his mind too? Yeah, I believe in the Seahawks getting 10 wins, and I think it's going to be more defensive heavy for them for sure. I know they lost their 2 safeties and Quandre Diggs, and but I think they're still going to be good. And I got the Cardinals at 7 wins. Like I said last year that they weren't going to be the worst team, and they weren't the worst team in the NFL last year. Kyler Murray makes a difference. When they drafted Michael Wilson, I believed in that kid from Stanford. Elijah Higgins from Stanford on the same team. They were teammates. Those 2 guys are good. They go and get Marvin Harrison Jr., Trey McBride. I was high on him. And their defense is forever improving. Trey Benson and James Conner is one of the most disrespected running backs for whatever reason in the league.
yes.
I think they got a lot to prove. And I know Jonathan Gannon gets crapped on for what he did with the Eagles, but the Eagles on defense look worse without him last year.
And then he beat us last year. He beat us on December 31st.
He gets a bad rep, but I think he's going to turn this. I think the Cardinals of next year are going to be competing for this division. I really do. I think with a couple draft picks that are going to come in next year where they can bolster everything, they got everything that they need now. They got their quarterback. They got their wide receiver. They got their tight end of the future. A couple more pieces on that defense to line up with the Buda Bakers of the world and otherworldly guys that are going to come out for this draft. They're going to be competing for the number 1 spot, but they're going to take their lumps this year, 7-10, and people are going to want to be, gunning for Jonathan Gannon's head. But this is one of those things where they got to pump the brakes. It's going to be a lot of close losses this year, and we got to look into the adjustments if we just would have had that one piece. Kind of like, we talked about the Falcons for a little bit. Like the way that Grady Jarrett played after he came back from injury, having a guy like that on your team is a game changer. They don't have that guy right now. They just don't. But when they get that Grady Jarrett type of dude that's going to blow up the middle of the field and help them with the running game against the Kyron Williams of the world that they have to go against and the Kenneth Walkers and the Christian McCaffreys that they got to deal with, it makes a difference. So I got them at 7 wins, man. I still think that this division is like, if you're getting drafted there, you know that you're going to be in the hunt every single year for a playoff spot because these guys you play these guys 9 times or 6 times a year, the other teams that are good. So that's where I got it, man. I love this division.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. Khalid, what you got for us on the NFC West?
Well, overall, I share very similar sentiments about how strong this division is going to be. I have San Francisco at 13 wins, the Rams and Seattle finishing with 9, and Arizona at 7. They're my strongest division in terms of average win-loss record. And, I mean, there's really – I don't see an argument for how San Francisco won't be the number 1 team on this division when all is said and done. They have a top 2 roster, and – They've had wins over the last few years to prove that they belong in that category with Kansas City, and I think that's going to continue. They're a strong team. They showed that against this Jets team the past week, and as long as everyone stays healthy, I mean, they brought back Brandon Ayuk. That was something that was kind of up in the air for a while. And now that he's back, it's full steam ahead. On offense, defense, you have all of your stars on that side of the ball. They're still productive. They're still forcing turnovers. Having Jake Moody at kicker, that he is a weapon because he's very reliable, especially from longer range. It's good to have a kicker that you can rely on. I know that special teams can often get overlooked, but San Francisco really does have a complete team, like holistically. It's hard to find a roster that's really better than theirs. Even Kansas City's, you could argue that San Francisco has a better roster than them. So then going down to the Rams, I mean, another thing about Matt Stafford, right, is you look at the two best seasons a wide receiver has ever had in NFL history. The first one, Calvin Johnson, right? Who was his quarterback?
That's what I'm saying.
Matt Stafford. You look at the next best season, Cooper Kupp, Triple Crown, right? Who was his quarterback? Matt Stafford. The only two wide receivers to ever catch for over 1,900 yards in a single season, both of their quarterbacks, Matt Stafford.
Stafford never gets his love when that happens either. They're just like, okay.
You don't just do that by accident, okay? Mm-hmm. Like I'm not. This is not in any way taking away from the talents that Cooper Kupp and Calvin Johnson are, but let's put some respect on the operator of those offenses' names.
It's not NASCAR. The driver makes the car, not the car makes the driver. Right?
Exactly.
Right.
Like Stafford is the one, orchestrating those seasons, right? He's the one delivering them the football accurately, keeping them out of harm's way so that they can stay healthy and play a full season, right? So he's still there. And I know this injury to Puka Nacua doesn't help, but a guy who, has a very similar athletic profile and I think has a very similar skill set, who, in my opinion, should be used in a very similar way, is late round draft pick Jordan Whittington out of the University of Texas. The Rams took him. He's very similar in terms of what he can do. He can be used as a gadget player, but he can also be used, to find the soft spot in the zone. Very reliable hands. To me, the resemblance is uncanny. And
100%.
If they use him in the same way that they used Puka Nacua, someone who I kind of knew about before he got there, because I knew about him in college when he was at BYU, and so it wasn't too much of a surprise for me when he went off. I think that Whittington has that same profile, and I hope they use him in that way while Nacua is out with injury. And then Seattle, they need to figure out what to do at quarterback, because the last thing you want to be in, like the last place you want to be in is like a quarterback limbo. You have Kenneth Walker at running back, who is an incredible runner. You have DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett and Jackson Smith and Jigba, like a great trio. But you have Geno Smith, who had that one good year, not as good last year, and you bring in Sam Howell, but like you don't want to be in this, all right, who's our starter? Which way are we going? In my opinion, it's best to go with one guy and run until proven otherwise, right? And give him full confidence. But I also think that the guy who gives you the best, like the most upside long-term, is going to be Sam Howell. Because, we've probably seen the best that Geno Smith has to offer, and that came 2 years ago. He's been a career journeyman his entire career, and I respect him for that. He's been very reliable. But I think it's time for Sam Howell to get a shot, because in Seattle – because he's the one who you can move forward with for the next 5-10 years, not Geno. So I think they have a solid roster. The defensive losses they need to make up for, because they also lost defensive tackle Poona Ford, who just got an interception with the Chargers this week. He was an anchor and run defense and also provided some juice in the pass rush. So they need to replace him. That defense has some work, but they got to figure out quarterback. And then Arizona, I think it's just a matter of time on the defensive side of the ball. Like Dante said, they need to add a few more pieces, and they need Darius Robinson, who was a high draft pick out of Missouri, on the defensive line. They need him to recover from his calf injury, because right now he hasn't seen the field because of it. And, that's just one more piece on the defensive side of the ball who could contribute and develop into someone who can provide the defense that Jonathan Gannon wants, that can help carry them to winning seasons down the road. So I think that they need a little bit more time, but there are a lot of young pieces on offense who I really like. And yeah, let's put some respect on James Conner's name. He's been very reliable. There's been an injury-prone label that's been thrown at him that I think is very unjust, given his, how many games he's missed in his career, especially while in Arizona. But I think that they're about to get over that hump in 1 or 2 years of being a consistently winning team.
Appreciate that. That was a lot. I'm gonna give it to E real quick. And since Dan wasn't here last week, I'm gonna let Dan go over the AFC North objectively. But I'm gonna give Eric, since he's got his gang, the Bird Gang on. E, what's your thoughts on the NFC West? Thank you, Khalid. Appreciate that.
Yes, sir.
Well,
Hey, the Bills are up 24-7 against the Dolphins.
I'm in agreement. I'm in agreement with everybody, man. San Fran, I've said it the last 3 years, man. San Fran to me is just the best team in the NFL, top to bottom. It's not often where you're gonna find great offensive line with a great defense with those skill position plays that you have, and you have Mr. Irrelevant, but he's been very relevant ever since he's been under center. So say what you want. To me, they're the best team in the NFL. They don't have the hard way to prove it, but I mean, it's not like they haven't had their chances, right? So I got San Fran, cream of the crop. I got LA. I actually was quite impressed with their game against Detroit. Again, yes, it's just one game, but I think when they're healthy, people see exactly what Stafford and company can do on offense, and I think they have enough on defense to get a wild card spot. And then I got Seattle and then Arizona. Arizona defensively, they need some people to get after the quarterback. Not only that, and they need some people to stop the run. I think they're better at stopping the run right now than they are getting after the quarterback. But that's what's lacking with their defense. Offensively, it's kind of Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde. Kyler can give you 300 this week and give you $185 and 3 interceptions the following week. It's just it, man. We'll see what Mr. What's my man?
Marvin Harrison Jr.
Yeah, we'll see what he's about. I mean, he looks like he's going to be all world, but looks can be deceiving. Seattle is just a question mark for me in this division. Don't know exactly what you're going to get. Are you going to run the ball or are you going to air it out? It seems like they can't do both at the same time, which probably would do wonders for them. But Seattle could be ahead of LA, in my opinion, depending on how they play. And just like
I agree with that.
What you said about the quarterback position. Honestly, I think you should go with Geno, let him ride out. I think he's earned that the past 2 years. Yes, he had a bad year last year, but I think he's earned it. And if you're bad by week 6, 7, 8, then you got Howell in the back and you give the keys to him. But I think Geno has earned that. But like I said, it's San Fran and everybody else, man. I think LA could get a wild card depending on how everybody else kind of falls into place across the NFC, but it's San Fran.
Gotcha. Appreciate that. We're gonna go to Dan. He wasn't here to do the AFC North, just the AFC North, Dan, objectively.
Well, I know I got shit on by just about everybody that, oh, yeah, we're going to finish last. That being said, that's going to be Cleveland. That's what they do. Deshaun is a figment of his past self, and Cleveland might have a good defense, but until they find a quarterback, they're not going to score any points. Now, the question is... I
couldn't tell after that game on Sunday, but go ahead. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You couldn't tell after Dallas whooped up on them?
Yeah, I couldn't tell. Their defense, nothing. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
But go ahead. No,
but like, yeah, it's the homer in me, but, I don't think that the Steelers are going to be as bad as everybody thinks they are. because they have probably one of the best defenses in the league. They got TJ Watt, Hayward, Herbig, this Wilson kid they picked up from NC State. You know, he's going to be a player. They still, you know, they have a healthy back end with Mika. You know, he missed a lot of games, you know, last year. So, you know, like I said, you look at the standings, every team scored a touchdown but us in our division. And who won? None of them, and we did. Why? Because we had that good of a defense. So hopefully they figure out, now that they got rid of the offensive coordinator and they can get this shit to work.
Everybody hated that guy. Matt
Oh,
Canada.
yeah, he was Canada.
Oh, Matt
horrible.
Canada? Yeah.
He was freaking horrible. And, you know, that was kind of what hindered Pickett when he was there. You know, they ran all this dumb shit, and everybody knew what they were going to run because they ran it 10 times a game. But I think now you got, you know, Arthur Smith, you know, he's got a chip on his shoulder because, you know, he got fired from Atlanta and he wants to prove he's a good coach. And I really do think, you know, if they can figure out the offense and who's the quarterback, like I know Fields had a rough time in Chicago, but given the right circumstances and the right offensive line, that's the other thing is if our line can play well, you know, I still think, you know, Baltimore is going to win the division.
Okay.
Even though we have their number, they're still going to win the division. But I think we'll finish above Cincinnati, even with the brutal last 8 games that we have. You know, they got to make up for that at the beginning of the season, which, you know, I think they're going to beat Denver this week. But it's one of those things where we got a good running game. We got a great defense. We just got to put the offense together. If we can do that, there's no telling where this team will go. But at the same time, you know, you got Lamar. And I don't know what it is with this dude. Anytime he plays a great team, he struggles. Like you look at last year against the Chiefs in the championship game. Like I don't understand Harbaugh and his coaching strategies. Like run the ball against them. You don't have to have Lamar win the game. Now they got Henry. They should be able to run the ball consistently, but we'll see. But, you know, I say it's going to be Baltimore, Pittsburgh, Cincinnati, and then Cleveland.
Oh, okay.
And I know I'm wrong, but, you know, that's why I'm the hockey guy, not the football guy.
No. You can get off that easy. No. You know, say it with your chest, bro. You was. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I saw Dante shaking, nodding his head a couple of times. Dante, just real quick, you and Khalid, just real quick, give us a little something on the AFC North since Dan is adamant about the Steelers.
I just think the Steelers have as many question marks as the Bengals do. And I mean, I have the Browns at 7-10. I just think their defense is way better than their offense. Not the fact that they don't have the weapons on offense. It's just they don't have the continuity to be able to get downfield like they probably should have. Like the weapons they have there are really good. And then Nick Chubb not being there, he might not be the same guy. He might not. He injured the same leg that he did the same way at Georgia. And I hate it for him. He's one of my favorite running backs of literally of all time. He's the last breed of hard-nosed running back that we're ever going to see. Ever. I think he's the last one. And it's sad to see the way he went out, but I had them at 7-10. I had the Ravens at 11-6. Look, say what you want, man. The way that they played on Monday night, or not on Monday, but last weekend, was not an indication of how good that their team actually is. literally, they were an inch away from winning that game from Isaiah Likely.
A toe.
Like literally, if he had
But if he wouldn't have missed the pass to Flowers, that play's mute.
Yeah, Isaiah Likely, and the scary part is they didn't even get Mark Andrews as involved in the game. They're just slowly getting him back in. So you think about the potential, and like their offense didn't look the same that game either. Kyle Hamilton is one of the best, if not the best, young safety in the league. How talented that kid is. He didn't look the same, but I don't really go off of like the first week of, oh my gosh, let's throw in the towel and think that this team is going to be exactly what we're going to see the rest of the year.
Think of it this way, though. Like the first 3 weeks of the season,
except for the Giants,
is really like preseason because a lot of these players didn't play. So you're not really going to know what team is what until like week 4.
I tend to lean that way too, but I just don't see the Ravens not coming out this week and beating the shit out of the Raiders. Like,
oh yeah, the Raiders are terrible.
Like honestly, I think
that's exactly what I said. Yeah. I mean, the Raiders going to be 0-2. Okay,
it's going to be pretty bad. I mean, Isaiah Likely not getting that score, Lamar missing those passes. You know, I'm on the other side of that. Like people say that he can't play quarterback, but I've seen this dude for years show up in games and become an all otherworldly quarterback. I mean, to me, when you watch, if you took away if it was a completion or not, the way that Lamar Jackson throws the ball is the prettiest formation of anybody throwing the ball in the National Football League. The spiral he puts on and everything. But is it going to be a completion?
Receivers drop the ball.
Well, that too.
You know what I'm saying? Like. They're got good receivers. They just drop the open.
Sucks. Yeah, I don't know why they drafted that dude.
I mean, he's not a bad quarterback. He puts it where it needs to be. They just can't catch it.
Yeah,
for whatever reason.
I mean, he won MVP twice because there's an obvious reason why. And Todd Monken has got him locked in. And out of everything, we saw Georgia win 2 national championships with this dude as our offensive coordinator. Because constantly, every single year he comes in there and he makes adjustments for his team. The Ravens are a badass team, man. I don't care that they lost Patrick Queen. They're still badass. His next man up. It always has been. Just like the Steelers on defense. It's the next man up. That's why their rivalry is so good. 2 respectable teams, 2 of the best ran organizations in the league, and they go in there and they play each other hard every single year. I just, as much as I like Mike Tomlin, as much as I like their team, at the end of the day, when I had to evaluate this division, I said, whose depth is better? I don't think the Steelers had the depth enough to keep up. They had the starters to keep up with the Ravens, but they're 1 or 2 injuries away from being 8-9. And I think that's what's going to happen. It's going to be an injury here or there that's going to get them at 8-9. And it's not a reflection on Mike Tomlin. It's definitely not. But people are going to be calling for his job, and if he ends up going somewhere else, they're going to be great. I think he's not done coaching, but that's just how it is. The conversations have already been had. But if you look at it, the wide receiving core, who's the best receiver there? George Pickens. Who else? You don't know.
That's it.
Pat Freiermuth. Is he an otherworldly tight end? I think so. But he's better at blocking than he is receiving. There's not a threat there. Najee Harris, I believe, is going to get traded by week 8. I really don't think he wants to be there. He wants to be back on the West Coast. That's where he's from, and he's already said that he's going to Alabama. Yes, he's going to want to be on the West Coast somewhere. I can already foresee that happening. Jalen Warren's the next man up. Do I think that he can anchor their team without a Najee Harris? I don't know, but I don't think so. Their offensive line is young everywhere. I don't think they're ready for it. Then you go to the defense. I think, that's where the best part of it is. But I don't think in today's game, it's not like we got to get out of the mindset of the 2000, 2005 defensive teams like the Ravens that can come in there and win championships. It's not like that anymore. You know why? Because your running back position is way too dynamic now. It adds a different complexity to what defenses have to deal with. They didn't have to deal with this in the past. I know we just talked about Nick Chubb being that old school running back.
The
But
last
none
one.
of these teams had to deal with the Jameer. You try to tell me Jameer Gibbs playing in the 2000 against the 2000s Ravens? Come on now. Like even Ray Lewis said himself, I had trouble against Fred Taylor and Maurice Jones-Drew because Maurice Jones-Drew was kind of the new school. Like, I'm going to catch it out the backfield. He said, those dudes gave us problems. I love what the Steelers have. I just don't. And I love George Pickens, man. I love that dude to death. I wish he was on another squad. If he was paired, like, for example, I want him to go to the Cardinals because I thought that he would have gave the best dynamic for their team in the blocking and receiving game for a dude like Kyler. And he doesn't talk that much. He just goes out there and tries to perform. That's just I don't know. That's just how I feel about the Steelers, man. But the Bengals are the other one. I had them in third, tied with the Steelers. I don't know what Joe Burrow is going to do. I'm not as high on Joe Burrow as everybody else. I get the dude has talent, but Jamar Chase is there. Joe Mixon is not there anymore, who I think was whenever they had successful teams, Joe Mixon ran for 1,000 yards. You've taken that away, and now you're going to depend on Zach Moss and Chase Brown.
But
and
we all know Cincinnati will not pay anybody.
Yeah.
They're
Their
cheap.
cornerback room is still suspect. Their front seven is still the best thing about that team, and I think they're just middle of the road. I don't know. Yeah.
500 ball club.
500 ball club. They literally, y'all see how they have to walk to their practice facility that's under a bridge in the middle of the hood. They got to walk from their facility across the road in their cleats to get to their practice field. And it looks like a high school practice field.
Well, they were showing Burrow the other night
Poverty-stricken
taking his
NFL.
right hand. Like he couldn't pick shit up.
Yeah.
What the hell? Yo, man.
Poverty-stricken NFL team.
They do. That's nasty work, man. People
Yeah,
walking
that
out
is
the
nasty work,
facility
for
on their
real.
field. They got to walk
Very
across the way, drop a couple of coins off to the crackhead, and then put on their cleats when they get on the
And
field.
hope they don't get hit by a car.
It's nasty work, man.
Yeah, bro. Yeah.
Oh man, listen, we had a ball tonight going over the NFC in the National Football League, and for the sake of Dan, the hockey dude, the AFC North, because Dan has some words for us, man. But hey, we had a blast tonight. Yeah. Thanks for all those that still tuning in. Looks like the Dolphins and the Bills are going to halftime. The Bills up 24-10. Part shots real quick, and we're going to get on out of here. Again, much thanks to my friends, to the East Coast Gridiron Podcast, man. Thank you guys to Dante and Khalifa coming on tonight and hanging out with us for 2 hours, man. Guys, much blessings to you. Thank you guys, man, so much. Sure. Appreciate y'all, man. Like I said, anytime I call Dante, he says, hey, I'll be there, man. So again, thank you. And like I said, these guys know football. Y'all hear them how they break it down. They know it. They watch the film for sure. And like
Great stuff.
I like what Dante say, man. You know, some of these talking heads that got money and that got all these production around them, they still don't speak. They just be saying some of the glossing points, and they really don't know, man. And that's what infuriates me sometimes. And shout out to East Coast Gridiron, where they do know, where they do study, where they do give you the right information when it comes to football. They 100%. All think football, man. So
hey, it's like I told you, Kev. Like no matter what the evaluations I've done, the people that come back on our channel are negative speak about the same players that I was wrong about, and it's only a handful of them. And me and Khalid were just talking in our Discord about this. But it's hard for them to say anybody else because the list is too damn long for them to remember how many people that I was right about. Mm-hmm. So I'd rather be wrong by myself than in a group of other people that are a bunch of idiots that are on the agenda from their network. The good thing about us owning our own stuff is I don't have to listen to another boss that tells me you got to get this click-worthy thing. Like, that's why people get mad on our predictions. I have no hate towards your team. I'm a Jaguars fan. I said we're going to win 7 games this year. Do you think I'm going to be honest about your team too? Absolutely. But it's no hate, man. I just want to see good football at the end of the day. That's what we live for, right? Like exactly. when USC went out there and played the ball game that we and had a great defense their first game out, me and Khalid and the rest of it was like, oh man, this is great. We want to see a good USC team. It makes football better because these are the cornerstones of our sport, right? So But yeah, man, I just wanted to throw that in there because you know me, Kev. Like I'm gonna say what I want to say, and it's not digging. It's just people just gotta tell, just like the Colorado fans. Colorado is not Colorado fans. These are Coach Prime fans, man. And when he leaves, I'm gonna feel sorry for that program.
That program's going down, bro.
As soon as this kid graduate there, he's done.
Yeah, it's gone.
This is temporary for that university, and I hate it for the real Colorado fans that were in that stadium when they were 1-11, when they were the worst team in college football. So, but I'm gonna say it like it is, and everybody's gonna be like, "Oh, you're an Uncle Tom. You don't know what Coach Prime's about." Brother, whatever. I'm not looking at the skin color, man.
Listen, Dante, it's funny you said that. Joe Klatt, who's a Colorado alum, who was on the bandwagon, all that stuff. All of a sudden, I listened to him on the Herd. The other day, I was like, you have come to your football senses, there, sir, huh?
I love Joe Klatt. He'll call it like it is too.
But he was kind of being a homer. Yeah. I'll give him that. For about then he's finally, like I said, he finally got his football senses together. I was like, okay, now you're cooking. Because like you said, I'm with you. I'm going to absolutely feel sorry for the real Colorado fans, because once the fanboys and Deion leaves, when his kids graduate, and Travis Hunter, everybody ain't gonna be wearing no gold and white and black helmets and none of that stuff anymore, man. So it is.
Hey, Khalid, what did I say about Travis Hunter the other day, man? I was cooking on our segment. If y'all haven't watched that video, go watch that. But like the one thing I said about Travis Hunter is like, I can't wait for him to tell us, because I think that he's going to be the realest one. After the fact, when he leaves, I can't wait to hear what he actually says when he doesn't have to report to somebody that's making less money than him, because he's going to be one of the highest paid players when he gets to the NFL, probably the number 1 overall pick. And the thing that I feel the worst about him is he could have been at Ohio State. He could have been in Alabama winning national championships and cementing his legacy as a guy that got us to a national championship and not a guy that got us here because of the hype. I hate that for him. But he looks at Coach Prime as a father figure when he's going to regret that. And when he gets to the NFL, like, dang, man, I wonder what it was like to win a national championship. He's going to have teammates that want to be like, bro, we told you to come here and you wanted to follow him. You could have got the same treatment from Nick Saban than that you got from Coach Prime, if not better.
Go ahead, Eric. Whistle. We got to get out of here. Parting shots. I'll give it to Eric since he was whistling. What you got for us, Eric, before we get out of here?
Yo, man, great show. Yo, man, appreciate you guys coming up here tonight, man. A lot of NFL knowledge was brought to the stage tonight, man. Really appreciate y'all, man. Yo, man, nothing heavy, man. It was another Sports Chasers Thursday, man. Yo, thank you for everybody that tuned in. Everybody that commented, all that good stuff, man. Yo, man, everybody be safe, enjoy your sports, man, and we'll see y'all Monday.
You got it. D-Dubs, what you got for us, bro?
Yo, good show as always. Yo, appreciate ECG, Dante, Khalid. Yo, we appreciate you coming on, having a good time with us tonight. Talking NFL, NFC. Nothing heavy, man. Everybody have a good weekend. Also, we got maybe on this Saturday, if guys is available, we might do a quick show Saturday. Also, we got some boxing. Canelo and Berlanga, I believe, is fighting this weekend. So if y'all want to check in for that, on me and DA got to get up and create a show, boxing show. But other than that, that's it. UFC is also on this weekend too. I think they got
it's on every weekend.
Yeah. Yeah, right. They don't stop.
Yeah. Appreciate you, D-Dubs. The hockey dude, the toxic one, Dan was on fire tonight. Dan, what you got for us, man?
Nothing real heavy. I appreciate you guys, Khalid and Dante, coming on. I do want to give a shout out more of, a somber thing to Johnny Gaudreau and his brother Matthew.
Oh yeah.
That passed away. And it's
last week.
It's just so sad that Johnny Gaudreau's wife is pregnant with his child, and it's hard to wrap your head around. But thoughts and prayers go out to their family as much as we can do. But how we're going to move on to brighter and healthier things. How's the poll going for this past week?
You're in the lead.
That's
This is
nasty troll work, Dan. That's all I'm gonna say. Nasty troll.
Yeah, that's some nasty work. Right after thoughts and prayers, this guy goes.
Hey, I just got. Hey, when the hockey guy does well in the football poll,
This guy's
you got to
toxic,
speak
man.
up, right? But nah, man. I hope everybody has a great weekend. Be safe. That's all I got.
Appreciate that. Khalid, what you got for us before we go? Pardon shots, brother. Thank you for coming on, man. Thank you so much, man.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, bro. Hell no. Thank you guys for having us here. And Dante, thank you for not just, inviting me to join you with these guys, but, I know that y'all been able to work with Dante probably a little bit like before I did, but
Yes.
Dante did a great job at just welcoming me and just looking out for me as I've gotten they're used to this kind of new setting for me. And yeah, I respect all you guys and thank you for having me here. It was a blast. I enjoyed talking ball with you guys. So.
Gotcha, man. And we're the Sports Chasers for a reason. So it looks like I'm going to have to get you back for soccer day. I see you got the Messi jersey.
Oh yeah.
Back, man. So yeah, I'm in South Florida, man. So I've been able to go to a couple of the Inter Miami games. I got a dude down here. He actually has the Inter Miami podcast for the soccer team down here, and his name is Jay.
Okay,
man. Good people's man. And the next time we have some soccer thing, I'm absolutely going to reach out to you, man, and get you on, man. So appreciate you there, Khalid. And I guess go Eagles because you're going to kick the Giants' ass.
Yeah, congratulations on the NFC East, man.
Thank you. Still a long year ahead, though.
Yeah.
Nah.
Yeah.
I don't believe in the Giants.
Do you
God
believe?
bless you, man. No, I don't believe.
Last but not least, my main man, Dante, man, what you got for us, man?
Yeah, man. Always appreciate, anytime I get to collaborate with anybody. It's truly a blessing when, you get people that understand the sports and not talking about nonsense and, understand that this is entertainment at the end of the day. And all these guys are human too. And that kind of going to lead me over to, Ricky Pearsall. I'm glad that he's all right. We got to interview him like this past Senior Bowl.
Nice.
So we hated hearing what happened in the news with him. He's such a down to earth guy. And, hopefully he gets to come back here in the next couple of weeks and absolutely balls out. That's another guy for the 49ers. I know we hate that they're so good, but when he gets back, it's just another weapon added to the arsenal.
Piece.
So,
yeah.
And, many minutes going to be played for him too. So he might be wearing the same watch during the game that they were trying to steal off of him. I'm going to message him now. I'm like, wear the same watch, bro. Pull a Shador Sanders. You're allowed to wear the jewelry during the game this time, just to show it off when you. Wouldn't that be awesome? He scored a touchdown and it shows the watch off.
Yeah, that would be something else.
The storylines write themselves, man. But at the end of the day, man, all sports are all sports, all entertainment. Wish these guys nothing but success, regardless of how bad sometimes we talk about them. But this is even better when we get to come together and get a couple laughs and talk about sports. It's all great at the end of the day. So I appreciate the opportunity to be up here with you, you guys, and help spread a little bit of knowledge about the sport that we love. So.
Hey Dante, like I told him, it's nothing personal, man. It's just what we see and how y'all perform. That's it. It's no more, no less.
Do the same thing with our bosses at our jobs. Ain't nothing personal, but you gotta do better.
That's it.
All right. It is what it is. I gotta get a paycheck, man.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Y'all getting paid, you can get criticized because at the end of the day, when you get that direct deposit that says 1.2 million in your account, you ain't even gonna care.
That's
You'll keep scrolling.
Keep scrolling, 100%, man. I don't have nothing heavy. Again, thanks ECG for hanging out with us tonight. Thank you so much, and to the rest of the guys. I know the rest of the guys are running another show. Peace out to them, to our guys, to Mike Mills, to the DA. We miss you guys tonight, man. To all those that watched on YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. It took me like 5 steps to go live on Instagram here.
Really
nasty work.
I don't even try. I don't even care that much anymore.
Well, obviously, some people don't try either.
Apparently, somebody has a stream that can bring that right up.
No. Thankful for everybody. Listen, we're gonna get out of here on behalf of myself, Kevin L. Warren, to the whole panel, man, to East Coast Gridiron, to all of the Sports Chasers members. Yo, this is the Sports Chasers podcast. Hey, we'll see you on Monday for the Monday Night Football Blitz, man. Y'all be good. Have a great weekend, and we'll talk to y'all later. Peace.
That's a wrap for today's episode of the Sports Chasers podcast. Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube and your favorite podcast platforms, and connect with us on all social media channels for exclusive content and updates. We'd also love for you to join the conversation, share your thoughts, and become part of the Sports Chasers community. And remember to tune in next time for some more real sports talk. Until then, stay frosty.